Oops, hold on. The wrong thing. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 88 of the Savage and Karate Sports Podcast. Every time I say that, the number of the episode, I always think of how close we are to 100. It's awesome. We talk about every once in a while. We're probably close to like 350, 400 shows at this rate total.
At this
dating
rate,
back to
probably,
the
yeah.
Merrimack days. This is our first show on a Friday. I couldn't tell you the last one, but Ryan went to the Celtics game. The worst officiated Celtics game of the year. We'll talk about that in a bit. Ryan was there on Wednesday, so we rescheduled the podcast. We made it work. I can't think of a better way to spend a Friday, and I'm not kidding. I'm not saying that ironically. Like, I chill a lot of Fridays. That's what I do. So, it's whatever. This works. I love talking sports, especially with so much going on for my Bruins. The Bruins, the best team of the NHL. The Bruins over the past few months or so. Very excited to get into it today. Jersey numbers for the week. David Pastrnak, the David Pastrnak episode. I mean, what else is there to say? We'll talk about him during the Bruins segment, as well as the team and how much they've been buzzing. He's the only Bruin ever, and that's pretty fair because he's becoming a Bruins legend before our eyes more and more with time. We had Antoine Walker, Troy Fumagalli, who I think is a free agent right now, but wore the number for the Patriots this year, and I think maybe a year prior. We got Martellus Bennett, Christian Fourier, and Terry Glenn. Interesting Patriots personalities for their different reasons due to status, and Christian Fourier's the media game. Why am I gotta look back. Terry Glenn. Didn't watch Terry Glenn much, but I've heard good things. Heard he was a pretty big time player. So before we get into our special segment that we're doing every week, now episode 3 of the Dickhead Behavior segment. What's up, dude?
Not much. Trying to adjust after, like we were talking before we got on. Started overnights on Thursday. It's kicking my ass. I'm very tired right now, working until 2 in the morning last night. But we're going to power through it. You said you have a lot of energy to bring. You might have to, like I said, share some of that energy with me, but I will try my best. Again, I apologize for anybody who was mad that we didn't go on Wednesday, and blame me for quote-unquote cursing the Celtics with how the game turned out on Wednesday. But yeah, like you said, a lot to talk about, obviously. Them. We'll get to the Rob Williams stuff, of course, which is looking better and better by the day. Now there's reports out there, I think from Woj had it today, that the 4 to 6 weeks originally was going to be maybe a tentative or a safety type of thing. He might return sooner. Obviously, you mentioned the Bruins, they're playing as great as they have been, maybe minus the Toronto game, of course, but we'll touch on that. And then some Patriot stuff, too, to talk about. But as you mentioned, as you alluded to, the dickhead behavior stuff, a couple of differing ones. I had more of a pop culture one that I changed because there's a funnier one in the NBA. You and I kind of agreed that a lot of people have kind of gotten tired of the Will Smith and Chris Rock talk from the Oscars a week ago. I don't know if you had any really quick thoughts on that, or you're just it's the same old kind of stuff at this point before we jump into your dickhead behavior segment.
Yeah, the Chris Rock, Will Smith stuff is just like funny at this point because it's just one of those things that's fun for like 9 seconds, and then after that it's not. You crack off a couple memes. I did, my friends, people I follow did, but yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, there's joking and real tweets, like joking about the violence. I lean towards Judd Apatow's deleted tweet being fake, by the way. I listened to him on Part of My Take today, and I get the sense that he probably did that as a joke, listening to him talk. But he didn't even mention it, which is kind of weird. Yeah, it just got annoying really quickly. I think it was real. Just to put that out there.
Yep, I do too. I didn't at first, but the more you watch it and the more you hear about it, it's like
fake. There's more reason at this point, I feel like, against for real. So yeah, everybody's kind of tired of it, except the people that are really fucking bored at this rate. So
the sound of the "Get Your Wife's," obviously everybody has heard it. Like, that is every other TikTok at this point that I've seen. That has just
that's gonna be like a TikTok stupid
stupid chick of
like trick trend of some chick dancing or something to that, or like
some sort of remix of it. Yeah,
lip syncing it, like just something stupid. Like I'm not that bored. Coming from somebody who reviewed Szechuan sauce on a sports podcast
I know.
the
Yeah,
other day, I felt like it. Like I felt like it. It's the 4th time it's been available, and
I definitely have to try it now, thanks to Rick and Morty. Like that's the only reason I knew about it until.
Dude, it's probably
now.
gonna be gone like tomorrow. You got to get in there.
I gotta go to McDonald's.
You got to order it on the app though. You can't order it in person. You have to download.
Oh,
the
you
app
can't?
Yeah, it's app specific, which I get it. You know, to get more people to download the app. I
didn't even know that.
I think I knew the Szechuan sauce existed before Rick and Morty, but I'm not entirely sure. But like, it's sauce. I mean, it can't taste that bad. It has this legendary status. Like I said in the podcast TikTok episode, I gave it an 85. I gave it a B. It's pretty good, but it like I kind of expected it to just absolutely rock my world, and it didn't. Like, it was close
blow your socks off, yeah.
It's like a sweeter teriyaki sauce essentially. It's got like like apple, like different types of like a type of vinegar, like whatever, different types of shit. I looked up, I saw a recipe thing for it. It's interesting. You definitely make it at home, but it's pretty good, honestly. And I got to be honest too. I don't think I've had McDonald's in like 5-6 years minimum. But I got a little 4-piece nugget and just dropped him in the sauce just for the content. You know, I was kind of betting on the hashtags being popular, starting to get popular. We do a little numbies, but people didn't bite. I guess.
The case. Yeah.
Yeah, but some of the people listening might not even give a fuck about that. So
they're like, we're here to listen to sports. Yeah, not.
I just, you gotta
we tried
opportunities. We tried the man on the street.
Yeah, well, I couldn't. Yeah, we got out of there too quick that night. I was gonna say, I was wondering when it came back because my buddy and I, we went to the 24-hour McDonald's that is in, I don't think it's Woburn, I can't remember it was, and he asked, he goes, should I ask if they have the way my buddy Mark did it, he goes, should I ask if they have the Szechuan sauce and see what they say? And I'm like, you won't.
You're gonna say he did like a Rick Sanchez impression.
No, he went just complete like lisping like for some reason, but no, they didn't. Either they didn't have it or the guy misunderstood us because he loaded up the bag with like 6 different sauces and none of them was the one we were looking for. So I still have to try it. I obviously didn't know that you have to put it on the app, so that complicates things. I guess I can't just drive down the street and get it, but hey, maybe after the show I'll try it out and see what happens.
Yeah, it's good. It really is. And the Rick and Morty stuff really hyped it up. I'm just sending the stream information to a friend.
Okay.
Real quick. Trying to get the chat going tonight. Yeah, it's good. I was like thrown off by it. I feel like this is one of those things I would have found out beforehand, but I saw it on my trending side of Twitter. I was like, oh, what's going on here? But maybe it was a tactical release to bring attention to Rick and Morty. I don't know when they're releasing the next season. But
the only thing I heard about it is it was like causing riots at McDonald's because people or places were selling out of it, and then everyone was losing their collective minds.
I went to the one in Wilmington. It was fine. I asked the guy for an extra one because he only gave me one. He was kind of like
hesitant,
which is funny. The thing I saw said you can ask for up to 5. I didn't ask for a specific amount. He gave me one. I asked for another. He's like, "Oh, like this is so crazy. Like we're gonna run out." Like,
it's like, buddy, it's 1 extra sauce.
Yeah, I don't know.
You'll survive.
I have it in my fridge. I might just sell it on eBay for like $50.
You might, if it goes out again, you might be able to. I'd hold on to that for sure.
Speaking of eBay, did you see the whole thing Caleb Presley did with Hasbulla interviewing him? And they have
Has that come out yet?
The Hasbulla NFT, Caleb NFT socks were socks. I don't know what I think I mixed up sauce from the previous
socks.
I don't know. They painted the Caleb NFT onto a shoe, Air Force Ones, signed by Hasbulla. They got it to a $26,000 bid, and it got removed for NFT content. I looked at it probably like 10 minutes after it was posted. It was already at like $1,026.
It's insane.
If only I had $26,000. If I had stupid money, I would buy
that. Yeah, exactly. That's the definition of stupid money.
Yeah. Just so funny. That's actually April 3rd. So this Sunday, we'll see the greatest thing to ever grace the internet. I'm like, he's the first American journalist to interview Hezbollah.
It's a historic moment, that's for sure.
It is, especially with everything going on in Russia. Like, that's crazy that they made that happen.
Yep.
They did it in Dubai. Hilarious videos. Caleb is a content machine. I actually saw Caleb at the last Sox parade. He was doing man on the street type stuff for Section 10. Into the material though, as we ramble for a little bit. We're having fun. It's a Friday.
10 minutes on Szechuan sauce.
We're loosening it up. We were talking about the Szechuan sauce. Go try it. It's pretty solid. I mean,
at this rate, McDonald's should just give you a plug, or just give you the Szechuan sauce for the amount of plugs.
We'll do live ad reads. I'll do live ad reads. Ryan will. I don't care.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, dickhead behavior. I'll start off again. Mine's a little shorter to explain than yours, but I don't know if anybody watched the Quinnipiac, Michigan game in the Allentown Regional Final. That's happening next weekend, by the way. The finals in the Frozen Four. For anyone interested, Rand Pecknold, a guy kind of like Nate Lehman, Scott Sandelin level for any college hockey fans. Guys that are very good coaches consistently that haven't gotten an NHL promotion yet, but have had interest. I don't know if I think that all three of them have. Scott has like outright denied. Lehman has, whatever. Certain things happen. They either don't get it or they get denied. But these guys are like borderline fringe NHL coaches. Should all three of them at this point, but we'll see what happens. Nate Lehman was actually considered in the Bruce Cassidy hiring process. Fun fact. I know that for a fact. I'll tell you that for free. So Rand Pecknold and the Quinnipiac Bobcats had Yaniv Peretz in net. This goalie came out of nowhere. Top 3, top 2, maybe top 1 in some people's minds. Goalie this year put up ridiculous, stupid numbers. This game was interesting, though. Michigan, the number 1 seed in the tournament, scores early. They score often, couple goals in the first 10 minutes. It ended up being lopsided for Michigan throughout the good portion of the first half or so of the game. They get in the third period. Quinnipiac starts to come back. It's 4-3, and Rand Pecknold, this awesome coach, guy I really respect. Another guy is Norm Bazin for any college hockey fans. UMass Lowell, very good coach. Should be an NHL coach in some capacity. He pulls the backup because the stud starter was pulled riskily. Didn't end up being too bad, I guess, with the empty netter goals I'll allude to. Dylan St. Cyr, very good young goalie prospect from the U.S. program. He's their backup as a young goalie to this Peretz kid, Yaniv Peretz. Cool name, by the way. They pulled the goalie with 4 minutes, like 3:40 range left, down 1 goal. When I didn't watch the whole period, I turned it on at the 11-minute mark. We're at the 3 or 4 minute mark. Quinnipiac was dominating. Michigan started out hot, slipped a little bit. They've been tough in third periods in the tournament. They let it slip away. It's 4-3. Quinnipiac is battling. The Bobcats were buzzing. I tweeted, you might as well call them the Buzzcats because it was unbelievable. They were dominating a very stacked team, one of the most stacked teams in the history of college hockey. I think they got minimum 5 star NHL players in the waiting, like 7 first-rounders in that team, I think it was, out of 13 in the whole country. This team is getting their shit pushed, though, in the third period. And he pulls the goalie. It killed all momentum. I get it. If it's like a 2 or 3 goal game, a 4 goal game, you want to get aggressive. Why not if it's as bad as 4 goals? Like, you're not going to win, but you might as well take the shot, see if it helps you. 1 goal is the margin. He pulls the goalie with 4 minutes left. That's ridiculous. It
insanity.
Could work. It's one of those classic situations. It looks great if it works. It looks like shit if it doesn't. And that's exactly what happened.
That's the reason it went. Yep.
It looked like shit because it didn't work. They forced a turnover at the blue line, I think, for Michigan. Scores an empty netter. It's tough. It bothers me from a common sense standpoint because they scored like 30 seconds after the goalie was pulled. The game ended 7-4. Michigan, I think, scored 2 empty netters, or like an empty netter, a goal, an empty netter, a goal. No, the empty netter was last, so it's the other way around. It ended up 7-4. It was 4-3 with 4 minutes left. It ended up 7-4 Michigan. Quinnipiac scored
That's ridiculous.
a meaningless goal with like 40 seconds left, I think. It just bothered me from a common standpoint. I respect Rand Pecknold. I respect Quinnipiac. But like this was brutal to watch from a common standpoint. I was texting some friends, and they lose because of it. Really good team, not one of the conventional studs every year, but always scraps around and gets in there. Quinnipiac, and they ruin it. It's a really good coach making a dumb, rare decision.
Mm-hmm.
Not meaning to crap on the guy too hard, but it's just a tough decision. Back to it. It looks great if it works out. It looks like shit if it doesn't. I just had to. It killed all momentum. They had momentum. They could have made it work without the extra skater. You just can't have that. It's just really
Mm-hmm.
tough to watch. Had to put him at a tier 3 dickhead behavior this week.
I'm curious, with different sports, we've seen this, and you and I have talked about this on this very show, and going back to Merrimack and stuff, with like obviously the World Series a couple years ago, the Kevin Cash pulling Blake Snell too early, Dave Roberts pulling Rich Hill too early. Like I wonder if like I don't know how much I'm assuming a decent amount of analytics goes into stuff like this. So maybe again it's the case of a coach thinking too much when in reality just go with your gut type of thing. Like you said, it's a mistake from a common sense standpoint. So maybe again, like looking at it, the 4:30 mark, maybe somebody up front or somebody upstairs rather, like Poindexter is saying like, hey, we have a better chance of scoring obviously here and maybe tying and taking the lead if we decide rather to pull the goalie earlier. Like I'm with you. 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes if you want to go that far out. Like 4.5 is just absolutely insanity.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks to
Mm.
see. I'm happy Michigan is alive because they're the more fun team to watch. So much high upside talent. Owen Power, who's going to join the Sabres after this year. Kent Johnson could join the Blue Jackets if you really wanted to. Luke Hughes, I'd stay a second year, but Kid was arguably the best pure offensive threat defenseman as a freshman this year. Brother of Jack Quinn Hughes, so it makes sense. The bloodline is spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
Brendan Brisson, the best prospect, I'd say, in the Vegas Golden Knights. New system. Fantastic player. So skilled. So underrated, I think, still. John Beecher from the Bruins. Bruins draft pick 2019. There's one I'm forgetting. But Thomas Bordeleau. Thomas Bordeleau, I think, is the most underrated prospect in hockey, personally. Kid wins face-off. Crazy skill, crazy hands. I think San Jose has an absolute gem for their rebuild. That team is just full of studs. Ethan Edwards, Devils 4th-round draft pick, that looks like he should have been a 2nd or 3rd-round pick. That team is completely stacked. It's good that they stay alive, but they got lucky, and they got lucky in the game before then, too, because they collapsed in third periods. Not a great sign, but I picked them to beat UMass in the final, as I talked about last week. UMass got eliminated, but we'll see what happens. I got 3 of the 4 teams in the Frozen Four, right? So, tier 3 dickhead behavior. Thank you for your input. On to yours, which I'm glad we changed the Will Smith stuff because this is a really interesting one.
Yeah, I didn't even know about this until I was listening to, again, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to change to. I saw there was a Antonio Brown story where he was trying to figure out why he hadn't been signed or wasn't getting the contracts like the extensions that we've seen Devontae Adams and who's the latest wide receiver traded, Tyreek Hill, which to that, like, common sense again factors in there. Like Antonio Brown is an asshat on the field and off. Like you can't compare yourself to Devontae Adams. So I was thinking about that, and then I saw this come across. Like I said, listening to Felger and Maz, Big Jim Murray brought this up from a Ringer article. I don't know if this was written today or yesterday, where Nets forward, currently in the NBA, currently playing for a playoff spot right now, Brooklyn Nets star Kevin Durant was talking about the possibility of his number being retired, his jersey being retired once his NBA career is over. And he went on to say that the Thunder and the Warriors should both retire his jersey. The exact quote from Durant was, OKC has to retire my jersey. It wouldn't even be good for the game of basketball if they don't. Same with Golden State. Why would OKC do that? Anyone who knows, the story of Kevin Durant, there's the jokes and the memes have been made that Kevin Durant is a snake, of course. That 2016 Western Conference Finals, in case people have forgotten, OKC goes up 3-1 against Golden State. They blow that lead. The very next season, he goes and joins Golden State, ends up winning an NBA title. So, I mean, there is some merit for why maybe the Warriors should retire his number. Personally, I think Golden State, out of that run, they'll retire guys like Steph, Clay, and Draymond before they retire Kevin Durant, because Durant, again, just kind of jumped on board with those teams. They're already good enough as is. OKC I just don't think it would look good for them to retire a guy's number who basically gave up on that team. And then again, just the timing of the comment to me makes it my, dickhead choice of the week. Because again, you're in the NBA right now. Worry about playing the games. Worry about your idiot teammates that couldn't play half the season because of their vaccination stuff. Worry about Ben Simmons, whether he's ever going to come back or not. And oh, by the way, worry about being in the playoffs entirely to begin with. If they lose, I think tomorrow night they play Atlanta. If they lose that game, they drop to the 9 and 10 seed area, where that's that's a one game play and elimination type of thing, where if they lose, they're completely out. So I just found it interesting. I'm like, Kevin Durant needs to seemingly get his priorities straight. This is something you could talk about in the off season, talk about obviously when it potentially comes up towards the end of your career. If you're thinking of wanting your number retired, just at this point now in the season when Brooklyn is, like I said, fighting for a playoff spot, it's just, I feel like there's other more important things that should be discussed right now.
Yeah, dude. I mean, Kevin Durant, if he wasn't in the NBA, would be trolling people on Twitter.
Oh, absolutely.
It would have 300,000 tweets.
Mm-hmm.
He's such a fucking enigma. This guy is so strange.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best NBA players of our lifetime.
That's what I mean. He's got the talent to back up acting like an idiot.
Dude, he's just it's crazy that this is even happening, dude. Like you said, they're a bubble team, borderline not bubble team, which is crazy for what they have, even without James Harden for the past few month or so. Dude, just have a normal one. Mix in a normal one. Having a normal one's pretty easy if you're in the right mindset, but clearly he isn't. Dude, I implore him to have a normal one.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what?
It's unbelievable.
It just shows where people's minds are really at. Some people, which is pretty pathetic. Like we said, for a guy that's so talented, has such a polarizing personality and aura around him, just on and off the court. Plays for a premier team in terms of the status he's elevated there. It's just wild. It's just wild. Not only being in that position in the standings, I imagine some of those players look at certain teams right now and they're like, we're so much better than them. I'm so much better than their best player, or whatever. Or certain players. Dude, you think the guy would be more dialed in, but he's just,
you would think
he's such a fucking dork. He really is. He's a big twiggy alien dork who's just nasty at basketball. Sure, that works, but I don't know. I have my questions about Kevin Durant. Maybe he should come in the pod and discuss. Maybe Draymond should.
God, that'd be
he's a podcast guy with Jason Tatum.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
I didn't listen to any of the clips, but at work occasionally I scroll through Twitter a little bit at the top of my feed, and Jaylen Brown was Jason Tatum rather was talking about Jaylen Brown and different aspects of the team. So maybe Draymond should hop on the pod. As a pure
that'd be something
basketball person in some extent that hasn't watched anything or followed a ton outside of the Celtics this year, is Draymond just not playing? I feel like I see him in
he's been
media
hurt
type stuff more than playing.
Well, he signed. I think this was right before the All-Star break, if I'm not mistaken. He signed the first ever. I just call it a sports contract, I guess, where he's the first ever player in history to be both the current NBA player and work as an analyst. So that was, I guess, a historic type of thing. I didn't even know you could do that. Yep, I had the same reaction.
This is completely new to me. I did not know this was a thing.
I didn't either. Like I said, I might be mistaken. I don't know if that's the technical.
I wonder if Taylor Lewan and Will Compton, who do Bussin' with the Boys on Barstool, kind of have that type of thing going on in the NFL.
Maybe, I don't know.
Because they post regularly. I haven't listened a lot, but I mean, it's a very popular podcast. That's really interesting. I didn't know that was a thing. I think it's the way of the future, though. It just sounds cliche, but it kind of seems like this is the type of thing that has legs to it. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the thing with him too is I don't think he was supposed to like obviously appear on TV as much as he has this season, obviously because he was supposed to play a lot, but he's been hurt, so that's I think giving him more opportunities to like show up on the TNT broadcast and do the podcasting stuff. But yeah, he's been dual wielding this season and it's worked out for him. Obviously, Golden State's kind of struggled a little bit of late, but they can get him back healthy, get Steph back healthy, they'll be good. But yeah, one of the more interesting things in just all of sports that's apparently a thing. You can be both an athlete and work in the media at the same time, I guess, which is kind of crazy to think about.
What tier does this whole situation have you at for?
This is just a tier 2, nothing major. Like I don't take this into anything crazy like the last couple ones we've had. Like this isn't like a team ruining thing that would put him at like a tier 4 or 5, just like a tier 2 type of like again like. There's other more important things. Maybe this is important. Clearly, it's important to Kevin Durant, but
yeah,
and maybe he's. I don't want to say he's given up on the season because there really isn't any indication that he's done that. But maybe this is just him being like, I'm just so fed up with the Kyrie crap this season, having to, like you said, deal with Harden at the start of the year. So like, this is.
I'm not guaranteeing it, but I'm halfway there. Like, dude, he's a bit of a weirdo, but I would be so sick of this. Like, being in the NBA, like in some aspects, has to suck. Like,
I would think so. Yeah, I mean.
It's just like
a lot of ego checking. It seems like just the constant grind. Obviously,
there's drama, there's complaining.
Yep.
There's Jimmy Butler wanting to fight Eric Spoelstra.
Yep.
And Udonis Haslem bitching him from the looks of things. God, that league is just a headache. Like that's why.
Well, just that, and then
the Celtics are an absolute treat to watch. They're now 6-2 in games I've watched. Enjoyed any parts of those games I've watched. I can't say I watch everyone glued to the screen 60 minutes, but it's just like it comes back to my motto that's becoming my life motto now. Some people just need to be less bored. Like get hobbies, find other things to do. Yeah. Like just be less bored. There's so many people that are so bored. Like it's crazy. Yeah, the NBA just I don't know, but I think this segment on top of what you're about to say, I think segues us into Celtics pretty well.
Yeah, it does. The only other Durant thing I was going to say is maybe he's just you mentioned, the NBA season's got to be tough. I can't imagine it's any easier with a guy like Kyrie Irving as your teammate. Like imagine walking in the building
Kyrie, right?
Well, yeah, I mean from a playing standpoint, but just the headache of every day having to walk into the building and listen to what I mean, obviously
the thing is too, like he can say what he wants about Kyrie, but he's also
he is a pretty weird guy, but
pretty weird personality, divisive.
They're weird in their own ways.
Some cases, type of guy. This is not a perfect word for it that I can think of, but yeah, he's just weird. The Miami game that you went to, me and you now have both gone to a game against Miami. Me in 2008 though, that was double OT when Dwayne Wade was on the team. The Celtics won. It was amazing. It was amazing. It took me 11 years to go to my first Celtics game, but how about them Celtics? How about
them? I mean, this was a lot of fun. Obviously, a little pleasant surprise from a couple friends of mine. So I know Mike and Mark both listen to this, so thank you again to them for the ticket for Wednesday night. I know kind of it sent us into a little bit of a tizzy trying to figure out when to record the show. But we obviously power through it like we do. Just some notes on that game. You mentioned it. Obviously, you never want to be that guy that says, "Oh, the officiating blew that game." They were they were terrible. They were, but then again, the Celtics had chances too. I mean, they just didn't play well down the stretch in that game. I think this was the Toronto game. Obviously, the first one without Rob Williams. That was a game that a lot of people thought might be tough without pretty much the entire starting lineup. Tatum and Brown sat that game. Horford wasn't playing.
They kept it crazy.
They kept it close with the Celtics F squad out there pretty much. So I mean that gave a lot of people some hope.
I didn't see it, but I'm saying purely from a score standpoint. I was talking to my buddy Danny at work. I was like, "Are the Celtics just gonna get killed tonight?" Like, even though they have good depth at this point, but like when you're missing 4 starters, it's gonna hurt you regardless. But like the fact that they only lost by 3 is nuts.
Yeah, and, I mean it was close all throughout the game.
Wow.
But
excuse me.
I was the same way, trying to keep track of it at work. I had a buddy of mine. He was keeping tabs. Every time I asked him, he's like, they're either up by 1, down by 1, or it was tied. I'm like, that's impressive to say the least. So, I mean, that game was a good, I thought, kind of confidence boost. We're like, okay, you can put pretty much your entire bench out there and Marcus Smart and still be competitive. The Miami game, on the other hand, I thought was the first game, and obviously there hasn't been a ton of them without Rob Williams this season, but this is a game, watching it and getting to watch it in person, obviously, where there were a bunch of times Miami. I mean, most of their offense was just pick and rolls on Wednesday night, which they were throwing lobs to Bam a lot. Dwayne Dedman was getting into the paint pretty easy. Like, this is a game where they missed Rob Williams, and it's a game where, again, it's still Miami scares the crap out of me with Eric Spoelstra. Again, just watching how he coaches that entire.
Brian?
Hello? We good?
Yeah, I just lost you for like 15 seconds, to be honest.
Oh, that was weird. It showed that we're having connection issues, so
Great.
Seems like it's all good now, though. Great with the technical difficulties. We're not supposed to have these things on a Friday.
Yeah, fuck
yeah.
it.
It is April Fool's Day, so a nice little classic prank, I guess.
Classic prank.
Yeah, we don't want that. No, but I mean, I'll try to repeat what I said quickly. Like, just saying again, Miami scares me. I mean, Tatum, he didn't really struggle that game. It wasn't one of his better games, but he was doubled on every touch it seemed like he had. He did a decent job of finding open guys, but like, it was a game where Marcus Smart was forced to take a lot more shots than he has been. They kind of fell back into that trap of Marcus Smart shooting a little too much. And again, like I said, not having Rob Williams. You noticed it on the defensive end with the pick and rolls Miami had. You noticed it on the offensive end. I mean, every time, whether it was Brown or Tatum or Smart or whoever trying to drive the lane for a layup, the lane was completely congested, and they were contested at the rim. Like, obviously having Rob Williams to pull some guys out of the paint is a huge luxury there. They started Grant Williams, trying to get some of the production from him. He had arguably his worst game of the season. Tyson, on the other hand, he came off the bench, played really well, had 15 points. They're starting Tice tonight against Indiana, which is, I would have started Tice in the Miami game, so it seems like they're going to go with that until Rob Williams gets back. But all in all, like, again, it's one of those games where you really see the impact that Rob Williams has on this team and what they're going to miss, at least for the first round of the playoffs. Like I said, Woj had the tweet that the 4 to 6 weeks seems more like a safety net type of thing. I can't remember the exact word he used, but they're hopefully going to get him back, and that kind of leads us into the Rob Williams stuff. Like, you being, watching some of the games that you've seen, how big of a loss do you feel that Williams is going to be for them? And, can they – that's the big question now is, a lot of people have kind of, I don't want to say completely written the Celtics off as NBA Finals contenders, but a lot of people are more down on this team than they were a week ago without having Rob Williams there. And it is a big loss. I wouldn't say it's a crushing one. Like, you still have Tatum, you still have Brown. Smart can step up when need be. You saw that in the Toronto game. So, like, you still have pieces there that are going to make this team go. But it's going to be a little tougher now, and that's why I think, as we'll get into a little later, like, seeding is a big thing now where the Celtics end up. Obviously that first-round matchup, if you can skate by that and get Rob back in the second round, like, you're still in pretty good shape, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a big storyline in Celtics fandom since, the Jaylen Brown tweet or whatever you want to pull from this large stretch where they've been playing pretty good was the impact Rob Williams was having on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. I keep hearing about the Celtics over a certain portion of time have the best offensive and defensive net rating in the league. They're just buzzing for the most part. So, yeah, I mean, you could lose any piece of this core and be affected. It just depends on the ways it's affected. And clearly, I'd say more so in terms of the defensive side of the ball at any one on the team. You lose that defensive impact, and in turn, a guy that's become no slouch, on the offensive side of the ball as Rob Williams, a guy that just really, the more and more I hear about Rob Williams, the more I think about how he's just had a fascinating career as a guy that dropped in the draft, was considered a top 5 talent, dealt with a lot of injuries and, bright flashes at times, but has really established himself now. The guy has had an absolutely strange career that is really starting to pay off, and it just kind of shows like his positive attitude dealing with the surgery now, and he wanted to get back out there. I think he's matured and he's grown a lot
Mm-hmm.
since his time here, and that's not to as a slight on him beforehand this past year, but it just shows how players can evolve. And I mean, Rob Williams is on his way to becoming like an elite NBA player at this rate.
He's been the
If he's
best
not
center in
already there,
basketball stat-wise this
yeah,
season.
like he
Like,
might already be there. We talked
mhm.
about this 2 months ago, like or a month and a half, whatever. Is Rob Williams starting to become an elite player? Is Marcus Smart, for that one stretch, playing at an elite level
Mhm.
for a bit there?
I'd start putting Williams up there. I mean, like I said, I don't have the advanced stats in
He
front of
has to
me, but
be
like
at this point. The more and more I
he's
think
right
about it,
up
he
there.
has to be. He
Yep.
has to be.
There's a reason him and Marcus Smart are both, in contention right now. They're not going to name co-defensive player of the year, but like there's a reason both of their names are getting
Yeah.
more and more recognition as the season goes on. And like I said, I mean, they dodge a bullet with the Williams stuff. I mean, just a quick Google search when it came to dealing with, meniscus repairs and stuff like that. There's one surgery he could have had, which would have knocked him out 3 to 6 months. He did the lesser of the two, which is the 3 to 6 weeks that everyone keeps talking about. It seemed like the tear wasn't even as bad as originally thought. So they catch a huge break there. I mean, timetable stuff, if you want to go through it, the NBA regular season ends on April 10th. That's about 2 weeks away. The playoffs begin on the 16th of April. That's about 3 weeks away. So again, he kind of falls into right after that, first round type of thing. The NBA Finals, if the Celtics can get there, obviously that's a long ways away. It is June 2nd. That's a little over 2 months away. So like, there's plenty of time for him to come back. Now the question is, will he be able to come back as the same player? The Celtics seem to think, he's going to be able to come back sooner than originally what's, been projected. They have him kind of working out already, so that's obviously good to see. But like I said, the question has been asked, what's the reasonable expectation now for the Celtics? Obviously, they were betting wise, NBA at least to go to the finals favorites, Eastern Conference Finals favorites. I don't know I don't know if you were on board with that, the Celtics are going to the finals, all that talk, or before the Williams injury, after.
I was
okay,
thinking
so
championship.
so
not
that's
even
perfect then.
exaggerating. I was.
Okay. With this injury now and the possibility of him not coming back at 100%, well, maybe playing at the ability he was before the injury, does that waver your thoughts on this team at all? Do you see them more pessimistic, like a lot of people have, as a second round exit, which I don't see? Like, I still think this team has definitely enough. Again, the chips have to fall in a pretty good way. Like, you obviously have to avoid Brooklyn in the first round.
Yeah.
It would be nice if someone could, at least in my opinion, if someone could do your dirty work and take Miami out. Because, again, like I said, Miami just scares the crap out of me. We've seen what Miami can do in a playoff series against the Celtics. Obviously, different circumstances in the bubble. Like, obviously, the Garden would help out a lot. But what are your, what's your expectations with, with the possibility of not having Williams? Definitely not having him for the first round. Maybe he's not ready to go in the second round. Do you still see them as an NBA Finals team, a championship team, or are you saying they get knocked off by somebody?
I might be in the minority here, and my Celtics takes have been getting more and more substantiated over time.
Mm-hmm.
I think with or without Rob Williams, they're getting through 2 rounds of the playoffs.
I think so, 100%. I think it's at least Eastern Conference Finals.
They're getting a little swagger. They're getting a little shimmy shake. It's been evolving. The energy is about to shift. It's shifted for a while now. Rob Williams is a huge loss. We talked about that, but this team,
which
just
is crazy
feels like,
to say. Sorry to cut you off, but like
this team feels different. Like you could say what you want about the team being a contender in the past, but things feel a little different. And it feels different because it's a different year, but it also feels different in like the vibes of the team, the feel, the style of play. The new faces like Derek White, who's contributing.
Been
a
young guys like
Peyton
Pritchard, Grant Williams stepping up.
Grant Williams. It feels like things are really starting to connect with the Celtics in a way they haven't in the past because they've been building towards it till now. That's what I get the vibe of. You have the remaining schedule here. I'm going to go wins against Indiana, Washington, Chicago, a loss to Milwaukee, and a win against Memphis. I think they're going to gut it out.
Yeah, I think they finish with minimum of 3 wins. Yeah.
Memphis is very good. That's not for me to say, like, at the end there, that Memphis, I don't think of them in the same sense as Milwaukee from what I read and see highlights and stuff. Not a super big basketball guy, but I think they can beat Memphis. That just screams last game of the season, a dogfight type game that the
Yeah. Yep.
Celtics can win. But we'll see. There's a lot we don't know about this team without Rob Williams still.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to be fine. Honestly, with what they're showing me now, I don't have any outright reason in terms of obviously Williams' void in the lineup to be like, okay, like I'm super worried,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't think they can do it. Like I'll get there when I get there, but right now I'm not there. That's just how it is.
Yeah. I mean, the play style has not, I don't want to say dropped off, but there is a noticeable difference. Like I said, having Rob Williams on the offensive side is maybe arguably more important than having him on the defensive side because of what he does to open up the floor for guys like Tatum and Brown. But I'm with you. I mean, I feel like you can obviously it's comparing apples to oranges here, but I mean, Tice can give you some of what Williams has given you this season. Obviously, not at an elite level like Rob has, but like I said, that the Heat game the other night, Tice played pretty well. They're obviously starting him tonight, so that works out. But again, it comes down to seeding stuff like that, and that's the next question we're gonna get into in a second here. But like I keep saying, you got to avoid. They won't get him. Like Milwaukee's going to finish higher. They'll finish in the top 3, so you're not going to see Giannis in the first round. But not having Rob Williams is huge in a matchup like that. The games against Brooklyn, Rob Williams was guarding Kevin Durant a lot of the time, which is again crazy to think of. Like if we were to sit here last year and we were to discuss this and be like, well, the Celtics are going to have a chance to legitimately compete in the East, and it might get derailed because Rob Williams goes out with an injury. Like I feel like you would have thought like, what are you talking about? That's insane. Rob Williams isn't that important of a piece for this team, but that again, to your point, just shows, the type of career he's had and the growth he's had. But again, it definitely complicates things. Obviously, now with the injury, there's been a lot of talk of where should the Celtics finish? Do you want to go for it, get that top seed, get home court advantage throughout the NBA, the playoffs? If you get the 1 seed or the 2 seed, obviously depending on who you match up against, or do you try to finish, in that 3, 4, 5 range, or primarily the three or the 4, so you still get some home court advantage, and you'd end up playing a team. Their most likely opponents are going to be Atlanta, Charlotte, Cleveland, Chicago, Toronto, or Brooklyn. I'm a little torn. Like at first, before the Rob Williams injury, I was like, go for it, get the top spot, try to get home court advantage. Are you more so on the side of you have one side you want to go to? Are you go for it, or you kind of sit in the middle and get some guys healthy, rest some guys, and regroup and go from there?
Look, in terms of the 1 to 4 seeds, I think they could beat any team they would face.
Okay.
But they will try to win, but I would prefer to them be in the 3 or 4 range, so they could avoid Brooklyn. Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
That would have been funny if they were the Lakers, because Westbrook.
Lakers might not even make the playoffs, which is kind of wild.
Which is so funny. Like,
it's also hilarious. Yep.
It's so funny.
Very funny.
Of course, LeBron rattled off a terrible April Fool's week because he's the biggest fucking douchebag. Yeah, you want to finish in that 3-4 range. I think that's absolutely the case. It's not the most viable way to do things because you want to win every game possible and hope other teams lose to make things fall into place or rise into place. In this case, going to the 1 seed potentially. I think you want to play a lesser team and then deal with Brooklyn if you have to at this point. Yeah, that's just where I'm at. But it's kind of a goofy way to look at things because you want to just win in terms of being a fan of the team. Obviously, if you're a player and a coach, but it's a bit of a conundrum.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think we briefly ran through it with the scheduling and stuff like that. I think that has a big part of it. They do have one more back-to-back night that at Chicago, at Milwaukee on the 6th and 7th. Like, it would not surprise. I mean, I'm with you. I could see that Memphis game being a dogfight in the end, depending on where the two teams need to go for seeding. But those are 2 games where, and I heard Ime Udoka say this a couple nights ago, where he was asked about if what's more important, the seeding or going for the 1 seed, and he talked about his days back in San Antonio where Greg Popovich was like, I kind of paraphrasing here, but he basically was like, it's more important obviously to get guys healthy going into the playoffs, which I agree with. And Udoka said like they've won playoff series as the 1 seed, they've won championships as a high seed, they've won championships as a low seed, and they've been bounced as a high seed early on in the playoffs. So to him, it seems like seeding doesn't matter. He's more so on the side of get guys healthy and rest up, and you saw that in the Toronto game. And again, The Celtics held their own in that. Now, is that something they can, it's not a viable thing to do, obviously. But if you get down to these last couple games and you want to rest guys here or there, they obviously have locked up a playoff spot already. Like, I would 100% be fine with, getting that 3 or 4 spot, facing a lesser team. Obviously, there's some more favorable matchups in there that we'll get into in a second. But at this point, I like the 1 seed is just, it's no big deal to me. If you had a fully healthy team, if you had Rob Williams going, you were full strength, I'd say absolutely, all forces go for the 1 seed, get home court advantage, and, have everybody have to come to the Garden. But now it's like, if Tatum needs a rest here or there, if Brown needs a rest, they're both dealing with some lingering injuries. Al Horford, obviously, age is his biggest problem. Not to say that's a negative, but like, if you need to rest him for a night, do that. Marcus Smart has been playing some extended minutes. Maybe you give him a night or 2 off. Like, I'm not saying you can afford to lose these games. That's a weird way or a bad way to word it. But like,
yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah, you're locked into the playoffs right now. Now, like I said, rest up.
That's right.
Get your guys healthy.
Right.
And go.
Didn't expect to say that at this point.
No, absolutely. Well, that's what I mean too. Is even at the game Wednesday night, talking with the 2 friends I went with, we all agreed with, like, it's like we're watching 2 separate seasons with how this year has gone down for this team. Like, the first half of the season is I feel like a distant memory because of how bad it was, and now you have it seems like a completely different team, which is crazy because it's not, minus, like you said, 1 or 2 guys with Derek White, and obviously the reemergence of Peyton Pritchard and the emergence of Grant Williams, guys stepping up, which is great. But just looking, like I said, really quick at the potentially playoff matchups, I wanted to get your thoughts. If they're, because we both agree you don't want to play Brooklyn in the first round, so we'll stop talking
ideally
about the 1 or 2. Exactly, ideally, who knows? They might not even make the playoffs, which would be hilarious.
Dude,
if the 2
Brooklyn and the Lakers miss the playoffs.
That's what I was going to get to. The 2 teams that are kind of everyone's
God.
finals favorites going into the year.
I think I said Brooklyn and LA.
I think I did too. Picked a very boring one.
Burping. Jeez, I gotta clean it up. Well, so burpy today. It's these White Claws.
Ugh.
I thought so too, dude, but they're better than pounded sugar into me.
That's true.
Countless times with tweez, like I drank for a while.
Those are gross too.
They are not gross.
Lesser of 2 evils at this point.
They are not gross. They are bad for you, and I realized that. I'm glad I did.
All right, there you go.
They're very good, though. I'm not gonna lie. I'll tell you that for free.
Fair enough. A lot of free information given out tonight. But
yeah, it's just it's a weird spot. It is. It really is. I kind of lost my train of thought talking there. So.
Well, that's what I was going to
segue us back.
Yeah, I was going to say clean it up. Well, both of us will do it. Yeah. Out of the teams I quickly mentioned, Atlanta, the Celtics have tied that series 2-2. The season series against Charlotte, the Celtics won that series 3 games to 1. Cleveland, they're up 2-1. Chicago, they're tied 1-1. Toronto finished the season series tied 2-2. Brooklyn, the Celtics have dominated this year. They've won 3 out of 4 matchups. So knowing that, again, Brooklyn, there is a possibility, but we're more so looking at the middle of the pack teams. Out of Charlotte, Atlanta, Chicago, Cleveland, Toronto, and Brooklyn, how would you rank those matchups? And is there anything that stands out between those teams that makes you want to play one of them more so than another?
I mean, Charlotte, I think that series doesn't get past 5, and I think the Celtics sweep them or win in 5. Atlanta, just like, they're underachieving. I don't know if that's a good vibe to be on.
They may have lost Trae Young.
They may have lost Trae Young.
Got hurt the other night. I didn't see what the extent of his injury was, but
certainly doesn't help.
Nope.
Chicago is slipping. I think this is a team that could be bound for a resurgence, depending on their health situation going into the playoffs. But right now, I'm leaning on the Celtics beating them in a series if need be. I'd say 6 games max. That series, probably 4 or 5, to be honest. I might be being a little crazy here, but that's just how I feel. Just the vibes and, what I know about the teams. Cleveland's tough. This is, I think, a team I absolutely think the Celtics would beat, but would give them fits.
Cleveland might be a dogfight, surprisingly, yeah.
Because they're good and young, and you also don't know what to expect. Like, they don't have a lot of veterans. They're a very young team that's working, that's, hot stepping, good young core. But, yeah, the unpredictability about them makes them a little scary for me. Toronto, we know what Toronto's capable of. Pascal Siakam showed it the other night against the Celtics.
He's having a great bounce back year.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a guy who's had an interesting early career. Fred VanVleet's been really good.
Yep.
Lose Kyle Lowry, it's not affecting them too much from the sound of things. They're buzzing. They're going to make the playoffs. If not, they've already clinched. It feels weird putting Brooklyn least favorable because I think the Celtics could absolutely beat them. But in terms of what they're capable of at their best, it has to be Brooklyn.
Yep.
It has to be Brooklyn. It just has to be. Unless someone's, really vehemently on a certain team as a, bona fide contender. But I'm just not. It has to be Brooklyn for me.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's Brooklyn's the top team. They keep saying it to avoid for me too. I mean, I know Jason Tatum has had a phenomenal year. He's gone at it right up there with Durant and all the matchups they've had this season. But like, if it comes down to it, you'd have one must-win game. Again, as great as Jason Tatum's been this season, Kevin Durant scares me a hell of a lot more in a win or go home type of guy. Like, he's the type of guy that could put on, we've seen it before, a LeBron type performance, and then Kyrie, if he gets his head on straight, and now that Kyrie, if we were still looking at, Kyrie Irving couldn't play in certain arenas, then Brooklyn, I feel like, would be lower on my list. I don't know if you feel the same way. If you just had to play a series against just Kevin Durant and maybe Ben Simmons plays or not. But now that Kyrie is back, as much as we'll crap on him, like, that makes Brooklyn a lot more scary. And then again, you don't know about Ben Simmons, but if he plays again, we'll crap on him because sometimes it's well deserved. But he is still a very good player. He's a guy that can, shut down your top guy. He's a guy that, in the game of the last time the Celtics played Brooklyn, if you had him out there on the floor, just Jason Tatum go off for, I think it was at 50 he scored that night or whatever it was, there was questions there of how much of an impact Ben Simmons could have had in that game. So he's a guy that, again, like, he's not going to shoot the ball great, but he can give you something. So yeah, like I said, Brooklyn's top of mind. Toronto, they're the second least team I want to play. I'm going backwards here doing mine. Because we've seen what Toronto can do too. I mean, I know we talked about it, the Celtics, we're able to play them pretty hard with a bunch of, not scrubs, but, their backups in. But Nick Nurse kind of gives me the same vibes that Eric Spoelstra gives me, a very, very smart and intelligent head coach, knows how to win in the playoffs, is obviously a proven winner with their championship. He's a guy that I feel like maybe could give the Celtics some problems. We've seen it in the past. Atlanta's a weird one for me. Again, I didn't see the extent of the Trae Young injury. So if they don't have him, maybe they become a little easier. But again, they're a team that has, some history. They were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, so they know what it takes to win in the playoffs. They've had a down year this year. But to me, if Young's healthy, they're a team that I feel like could maybe have that type of flip the switch moment. Trae Young said that a while back, that I think his exact comment was like, the NBA regular season is boring. We're waiting for the playoffs, which maybe comes off a little snarky, maybe comes off a little like a D-bag here or there. But again, like Atlanta, they've had some success, so they worry me a little bit. Chicago, they're a little banged up. They don't play a ton of defense. They have good talent on that roster, but it's a team I think the Celtics match up pretty well against. The one thing that will worry me on that team is, why can't I think of the center's name they have now? I'm drawing a blank here.
Vucevic.
Yes, thank you. I was going to say Jokic. Nikola Vucevic, thank you. Without Rob Williams, that's a matchup where I think maybe you could have some problems there if, Vucevic can go off. Cleveland and Charlotte kind of fall into the same category for me. Charlotte does have a little bit more experience, but both teams are young. Both teams struggle at times defensively. I think the Celtics could wipe the floor with either team. I can definitely see where you're coming from, though. Cleveland does have that, I feel like, type of chip on their shoulder mentality this season. No one picked them to be a playoff team, and rightfully so with the couple seasons they've had, but they've had a nice year. Maybe they go into the playoffs as, a why not us type of mentality with, a good young roster and surprise some people. Maybe they're a team that helps you out and, like I said, knocks off Miami if they could somehow get them in a matchup, which would be interesting. I think that'd be a lot of fun, that series. But yeah, if you haven't kind of caught on yet, the echoing is we do not want the Celtics to play Brooklyn, pretty much like everyone else. Just get healthy, get some guys back, or get obviously one piece back, get Tatum and Brown healthy, and then go on a run that we kind of expect them to do. Because right now, I think you and I are both in agreement. It seems like it's at least Eastern Conference Finals or bust with this team, with how well they've played, at their ability. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's really it. But we'll see what happens at this point. We just gotta wait and see.
Yep. The last real quick thing, too, before we jump into Bruins, because I forgot I had this in the outline, just to show maybe how, obviously, with the Celtic, the luck of the Irish has not been with this team when it comes to the playoff time. NBC Sports Boston Sports Tonight, actually, excuse me, they had this graphic up the other night. I think it was Monday night on their telecast, just how bad luck the Celtics have had when it comes to, star players or impact players come playoff time going back to 2009. Obviously, Kevin Garnett had a leg injury. He missed the entire 2009 postseason. Celtics lost to Orlando in the Eastern Conference semifinals. Kendrick Perkins in 2010 goes down with a knee injury. The Celtics lose in the NBA Finals to the Lakers, of course. 2017, Isaiah Thomas, that great playoff run he had. He goes out with a hip injury. They lose in the Eastern Conference Finals to Cleveland. 2018, obviously that's the Gordon Hayward year where he snaps his ankle 5 minutes into his Celtics career. Kyrie Irving goes out later in that year with a knee injury. Celtics lose that year in the Eastern Conference Finals to Cleveland again. Just last year, I forgot about Jaylen Brown, went out with a wrist injury. Celtics, of course, got destroyed by Brooklyn in the first round of the playoffs. And now this year with Rob Williams going out with a knee injury, he's going to, like we said, be out at least for the first round of the playoffs, maybe more. But like I said, keep an eye on him. But just some really shitty luck with this team, it seems like, come playoff time. Like I said, the luck of the Irish is not with this team when it comes to, this late in the season. Hopefully, they stay healthy in the final 5 or 4 after tonight games of the season, and we can hopefully expect a good long playoff run for a team that we did not think was going to be the case 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how things have changed. And
like I said, it's like we're watching 2 different seasons.
Yeah, and it's, with the injuries, it's crazy. If they had a different bench, like a bench from the past they had this year, we'd be talking about a lot different team. But good to see the Celtics powering through here. It's a pretty resilient team for quite some time, and they're surprising people, and they continue to do so. Maybe they will further after this. On to Bruins, though. Catching up on all things Bruins.
They are rolling too.
Yeah, I mean,
very high hopes for both these teams now.
More often than not, I'm just going to put this out there right now early. They're the best team in the league right now. They're playing better than any team in the league. Pretty wild because it's been not a bad Bruins season at certain points. Sometimes it's been tougher than others, but an interesting Bruins season. A lot of different factors being tossed around, like a lot of questions to answer, additions to make, things going on. It's been a crazy Bruins season. We'll start with the game recaps. Brandon Hagel, the guy who scores like the new Thomas Vanek at this point. He just scores against the Bruins all the time.
The Bruins, yeah.
Yeah. He scores first in this one. Pastrnak evens it up, though. Tough look, going back to the Hagel goal. Tough looks from McAvoy and Marchand. Just couldn't close up quickly enough to stop the Hagel goal. Tough. But Pastrnak, luckily for the Bruins, carried them when he needed them the most. This awesome breakout stretch pass from Hampus Lindholm off the boards to Pastrnak. He comes in, buries it on the backhand. Just perfect. Lindholm has been so good. We'll talk about him a little later. His second goal was just a bit silly. He did some sorcery spinorama shit and buried it in a very small hole past Vasilevsky, who's the largest goalie in terms of equipment and size in the league. Heads up hockey from Howla to capitalize on the fumbled puck by Sorelli. Hall's battling out front, just making a muck. And Pastrnak picks up the loose change. The big Selly, let the arms out. Let's go, firing the crowd up. It just caps off a perfect game pretty much for Pastrnak. He played so good. He was so dialed in. He's just changed so much since January 1st. It's incredible. 12th hat trick of his career. For reference, for those who may have been thinking about this in terms of his hat tricks relative to his age, it was the 12th hat trick of his career. Evgeny Malkin, who at certain points over his career has been the best player in the league for stretches. He's truly that good. He's truly been that good, and he's accomplished a lot. 35 years old. Has 13 hat tricks. And he just got the 13th hat trick on Sunday when they won 11-2 over the Red Wings. Pastrnak is 12. And he was drafted in 2014. It's 8 years now, but it's a pretty wild thought. It's not even close to 35.
You said it at the top of the show for the numbers. He's cementing, his Bruins legacy pretty quickly here.
Incredible week for the Pastrnak episode.
Very timely. It's almost like he knew.
He's so ridiculously good. He's getting to the point, I'll talk about this a little later too, where he gets in a certain point in the offensive zone on a power play or an extended possession where he just like cruises. He's like, yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
just gonna wait for the puck. That's really it.
Yep.
Great win for the Bruins though. They're battling in that segment of the division with Toronto and Tampa now to get a win against Tampa is huge. Swayman makes 22 saves on 24 shots. Pretty wild how the Tampa Bay Lightning managed to only notch 24 shots. Bruins outshot them 39 to 24. On to the next one. 2 nights later, we have a 6-3 win over the Islanders to put them at 41-19-5. Craig Smith got the scoring started in this one. Coyle just absolutely takes the puck deep and buries an Isles defenseman. Finds Carlo, who sends a shot with purpose off the wall. Jack Edwards' favorite thing to talk about, one of them. I love hearing a shot with purpose on the broadcast. Goes right to Craig Smith, just easy, so free goal. Just beautiful, beautiful execution all around. Carlos had quite the week. He's done good things and bad things.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Palmieri tips one past. Who started here? Omar got called off for high sticking though off a shot from Dobson, tipped by Palmieri. That gets called off after a review. Great bullet pass from McAvoy to Hall to bury one. Just textbook again. Nelson scores off a rebound for the Islanders. Taylor Hall to Eric Holla, rebound for Pastrnak. Another just free goal. Really good execution on all three parts. Marchand gets sandwiched behind the net, gets up, grabs the puck from the refs off of a skate shot by Patrice Bergeron, and just makes no mistake. Just buries it immediately, doesn't lollygag, doesn't try to make too many moves. Buries it. Huge goal from Marchand. Another guy just had a great week. McAvoy first forces a Barzal turnover at his defensive blue line. Hall picks it up, just walks Josh Bailey so easily. This guy just makes it look easy at times. Takes it to the neutral zone, gets it to Pasta, over to Hala. I mean, just precision. This team really is putting together something special over these past few months. DeBrusque scores a wild goal from behind the net, banks it off of Adam Pellick's stick, and over the left shoulder of Semi Varlamov, just a goofy goal. Over Semi Varlamov's shoulder. Nice passing play on the Parise goal for the Islanders late, but it doesn't matter. The Bruins just dominate in this one. Did you catch any of this game?
I went golfing Saturday morning week. I caught the entire third period, so I didn't obviously catch them the majority of it, but caught some of it. I mean, they look good. Again, beat up on. I mean, the Islanders have had an up and down season, so again, kind of beat up on the teams you need to beat up on. And again, it's nice. We've talked about it a lot. I've mentioned it a ton since we started doing this. The secondary scoring is obviously nice to see, and to get it from what, 5 different guys on there, like, it's obviously great to see. Like,
Yeah,
and then Pastrnak keeps up
his
needed. Yeah, absolutely. Pastrnak keeps up his goal streak too, being the man. So
yeah,
that's obviously good to see too.
He's just out of his mind, honestly. Mm-hmm. This game was quite eventful coming up against the Maple Leafs at home. Unfortunately get the win, I should say. English. 6-4 loss. Jeremy Swayman makes 19 saves on 25 shots. By the way, Omar made 24 and 27 with a 44-27 advantage for the Bruins in shots on goal against the Islanders, for anyone curious. Swayman, tough game.
Yeah,
19 saves, 25 shots. Omar comes in for relief, 7 saves on 7 shots. 32-30 Leafs in shots. Brad Marchand gets a game misconduct for, I guess, pushing the boundaries. Taylor Hall gets fined $5,000 for roughing Ilya Lyubushkin. Sure, it was a sucker punch, but I'm not even saying this to say like Lyubushkin was faking it, but like I genuinely can't believe that injured him. It did, because I think he might not have practiced in full today, so it's still affecting him. But it just looked pretty like a little scummy from Hall, but not like super.
Oh, absolutely was
overwhelmingly bad.
Mm-hmm.
But like people, in Toronto will call for Hall's head.
Todd Bertuzzi now,
stupid.
right?
Yeah, he's Todd Bertuzzi now.
Yeah,
Todd Bertuzzi.
That's what I saw on Twitter.
Todd Bertuzzi killed someone on the ice, pretty much. No, off the ice. I think it was a car accident. But
I didn't know about that. I thought you were
No, he killed someone in a car accident.
Okay, did not know that.
That did happen. Yeah, the Todd Bertuzzi comparison is ridiculous because he seriously injured somebody. Lyubushkin at this point, to our knowledge, strongly will not have that severe of an injury. So calling them comparable is just out of this world. Again, have a normal one. Maybe relax a little bit.
Don't be less bored. So bored.
Yeah, be
Or whatever you're saying
bored.
is, yeah.
Like what the fuck? Honestly, it's just an insane comparison. Grizzly and Clifton for the Blackwell goal, not on the same page. Spezza picks it up. The more and more I watch Jason Spezza, man, this guy is getting so old and he's still so good, even though he's playing on the fourth line.
Mm-hmm.
Smooth hands, smooth passer, can still shoot, and he's so fucking old. Like, guy's kind of a rock star. He's on the Leafs, unfortunately, but he's a rock star still. Still a really solid player for his role. Tough goal to let up. Not great from Grizzly and Clifton, but that's why they're not a defensive pair. It just happened. Tic-tac-toe from Marchand McAvoy and Bergeron to Pasta. The shot pass intended for Hall, but tipped off by Brody. Brody, looking real good out there.
Mm-hmm.
Pasta, like I included earlier, has reached Ovechkin mode, where he stands pretty much upright, just relaxed. You're waiting for somebody. No, just like standing there with a stick in his hand like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just waiting. Like, give me the puck, I'll score. He's in Ovi mode.
I'll find a way.
And he's earned it. He's earned it. He's one of the pure, legit goal-scoring threats that we've seen in the past decade or so. He's just that good, and he's earned it. Just absolutely buries it, hits it off the post, gets a chance back. Just unbelievable. He's a rock star. Carlo overcommits on the missed shot by Nylander. Gets put in a blender on the Morgan Riley goal. Kerfoot made this goal happen after to make it 3-2 all by himself. Blocks a McAvoy shot, takes it in, beats Swayman on the breakaway. Matthews sends a pass through Carlo. Lindholm gets beat up by Marner on his off wing. NHL 22 goal. Big rebound by Swayman on the Matthews goal. And Morgan Riley shot gets through and tipped by David Kampf. Dumb and hilarious play by Connor Clifton to just bury Kerfoot as he's going to celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
Good way to get yourself benched, and he did. I assume at least partially because he was not in the lineup against New Jersey. What do you think about the Bruins going forward into this game? Because I really have to pee. So I'm going to hand it off to you for a sec and let you talk while I pee.
All right. I'll get my thoughts on everything because I do have a question when you do return. Again, like watching it at work, just trying to keep an eye on what was going on. It looked like at points, and like I said, I'll ask Mike this when he gets back. At times, it looked like, Bruce Cassidy, for some reason, switched up the defensive pairings. I thought the broadcast mentioned Lindholm and Carlo were out there a lot, which I don't get because I know Mike has it in the outline here. We'll get into it, that Lindholm has worked so well with McAvoy. So that doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Clifton, as he mentioned, gets benched in the next game, which is fine. Like, Clifton, to me, is a guy that I feel like is expendable. Like, that's a guy that has had a good season, but should be playing a, extra defensive role. Like, this is not a guy that should be starting night in and night out. I mean, Mike Riley hasn't had the best of seasons, but moving forward, we saw how well Riley played the other night against New Jersey. Like, that's a guy to me that I think should stick in the lineup. You give Josh Brown some opportunities. Again, not going to light the world on fire when he's out there, but that's a spot. That last defensive pairing is a spot where you can mix and match some guys. Good to see DeBrusque keep going as Mike comes back in. Can you hear me, Mike? I had a question for you that I needed to ask you before you walked away.
Sure.
Like I said, while you were gone, I kind of was tuning out at work, but I thought the broadcast mentioned it. Me and my buddy Colby, who I usually see the games with at work, we noticed that a lot of the times did they have Lindholm out there paired with with Carlo? It seemed like
times they kind of mix things up.
Did they do that just because of how bad they were playing?
That line up certain pairings.
Because
we
couldn't figure that out. We thought that started the way, and we both were like, "Why would you take Lindholm off of McAvoy? Like, that pairing has worked so well. Why would you?"
I get that. Yeah.
Switch that up.
I think it stems from when Lindholm was first acquired, they talked about him playing with Carlo and McAvoy.
Okay,
So
I would just stick
I
with
think
McAvoy. Like,
they're different.
okay.
But
And then the other
you're
point.
talking about games specifically.
Yeah. Well,
Mm,
just more so this game because it seemed more noticeable in this game. Like the other ones I had
okay.
been able to catch, it's like he was with McAvoy a lot. It worked. Like there's stats obviously that I'm sure you're gonna get into that have backed up that it's worked. They've been a great pairing since he was traded. So it just didn't make a ton of sense. I didn't know if like you said if they were because they were playing so bad and everyone looked bad in that game that they were just trying to mix and
Yeah.
match things. But
I
and
think
then like
they use that as an excuse to mix things up.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Playing
And
bad.
then you mentioned obviously Clifton got benched in this New Jersey game, which I'm fine with. Like I know, like I said while you were gone, Mike Riley hasn't had the best
It
of
was bad.
seasons,
He had a
but
bad game.
yeah, I mean, Clifton's a guy I think that at this point should just be getting like if a guy needs a night off type of thing. Like he's not a guy that should be starting to me. Like I would rather be going with Riley as that third pairing
Yeah,
guy,
Riley
maybe
on the
move
off
him up and
wing,
down. Like
honestly,
yeah,
or the
exactly.
offside.
But
yeah, Clifton's the biggest wild card on the team because you just
mm-hmm.
never ever know what you're going to expect from Clifton because he's either going to be fine, maybe make the occasional mistake, or he's going to play like a complete sicko maniac and play bad in this case.
mm-hmm.
It's just tough. I think the big thing with Lindholm as well and his usage is they're trying to, not only mix things up, but they're trying to get him experience with Carlo. So if they
Okay,
need to make a change in the
just
playoffs,
in case.
they're not completely unfamiliar with one another. So
Okay, I get that from a certain standpoint. That makes some sense.
that's how I look at it. Yeah. I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but it's Vest Friday. Everybody just
You did
adopt
not.
Vest Friday at this point. This is my
Just
work
making it up
vest.
on the go.
Free vest from work. I like
The
it.
other
It's
thing too
beautiful.
is, I know a kind of it'll transition us into the New Jersey game here, but I personally just don't know how to like. You mentioned it when we started this. It's been a weird week for them. Like you obviously get excited about them being able to, you know, play well against Tampa, beat Tampa. We've seen them struggle with them in the past. You beat up on the Islanders. That's great. The Islanders haven't had that great of a season, so you expect that, like I said. But then obviously you get torched by Toronto and then beat the crap out of a bad like. To some people, like I feel like they'll see the New Jersey game as like a good bounce back win, but like to me, it's just like okay, you're beating up a team that had no defense last night, had no goaltending. It was both atrocious. So like I just don't know how to feel about the recent stretch. Yes, they have played very well, but like the Toronto game just kind of sticks out to me as like a real like sour grape, I guess, for lack of
It's
better
got
terms or better
waves to it
analogy.
because it's got waves to it because they've been good, but they've also had some back and forth moments.
Mm-hmm.
And beating Tampa's great, even though in that game you could have used somebody else scoring besides Pasternak, so double-edged sword. You beat the Islanders, you bounce back there, then you lose to the Leafs. I got to be honest, the Bruins have lost 2 times to the Leafs in 2 games. The Leafs don't scare
Not
me at
great.
all.
No. Okay.
Just they don't. I don't care if Matthews has 50 goals. He's an empty net merchant. He wouldn't be at 50 goals if he didn't score so many empty netters. I think he's probably got like 5 or 6.
Okay.
You want to see David Pastrnak doing that?
He just scores them as is.
Yeah, pretty much.
Even on that comment
like,
though about
and just one last thing, it just
yeah,
goes back and forth. The back and forth continues to the Devils. They just trounce the Devils.
Mm-hmm. The one thing, because you mentioned about obviously you'd like to see some secondary scoring against that team. Like the fact that Pastrnak scored all 3 of those goals, doesn't bother me so much. I know that's probably weird for people to say because I've been one of the bigger proprietors of like you need to get secondary scoring, but like that to me is like okay, you had a game where like you needed arguably your best player to step up and show up, and he did. So like that doesn't bother me too much. The Toronto game I'm just so torn on because like I completely forgot that it was 2 games and 2 losses to Toronto, and like this game obviously looked so bad. But then you look at it on the flip side, and like we know what this Maple Leafs team is in the playoffs pretty much. Like they're a team that to you and I doesn't strike a ton of fear. So like that's why I'm so I guess torn on how to feel about these last couple of performances against the Maple Leafs. Like I feel like you something you should be worried about, but then in reality it's like okay, come playoff time, like they turn into like pumpkins at this point. Like they're the Yankees. Me and my Colby have talked about this. Like they're the Yankees of the hockey. Like they have all this expectation in the regular season, and then go into the playoffs and lay an egg half the time. So like, it's weird. It's a weird time, but again, I'm not too like shaken up on this, but I'm also not like too like rah rah. They've been obviously, like I said, they're winning the games they need to. The Tampa Bay game is nice, but we haven't even gotten into the New Jersey game yet. So how about we do that?
Yeah.
Because
Well, I've
there's
been
a lot to discuss
rah-rah.
in that.
I've been rah-rah for
You
a
have
few
been, yep.
weeks in particular, but since January 1, um, this is the best team in the league. This is the best team in the league right now.
Okay.
They're a threat. That Toronto game sucks, but like I'm still not scared of Toronto at all. Like I'm really not because they didn't address goaltending.
Mm-hmm.
Mrazek's hurt for like the fifth time. Eric Shalgren has never played in the playoffs. Jack Campbell has not come back yet. Has never played in the playoffs. So yeah, the Bruins wax the Maple Leafs no matter how they're playing in 4 to 5 games. I'm debating not even giving them 5. I'm not even kidding. I think the Bruins.
That's
I
that's
think the
something.
Bruins. I think the Bruins wax this team. I really do. Um, I just think they're built for it. I think they're built for the future in terms of the cap better. This is going to be a better team for more years than the Maple Leafs are. I really do. I really think they're extending this window and they're delivering on it in the early stages of trying to extend the window. Um, New Jersey 8-1 win should have been 9-1, but it was 8-1. 42-20-5 now on the season. Just an incredible year. They made up so much ground on Tampa. They were 15 points behind at one point. Now they're in the mix within a point or two with Toronto and Tampa. Matt Grizzly sends a shot through traffic, gets in. A classic type of Grizzly, like half wrister goal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just what he's used to. He loves scoring against the Devils. We saw that amazing goal, just undressing PK Subban and the other goal in that game. He owns the New Jersey Devils. Jack Hughes scores from the Rockstar Zone. If you don't know the Rockstar Zone, it's practically right on the goal line. You score on your off winger from wherever. Not entirely a Rockstar goal, but because it wasn't a slap shot, but he scores at a ridiculous angle on Olmark. Just crazy, honestly. Just a crazy, crazy goal. Terrible defense by Carlo and Brown on this goal. Josh Brown's great. He fought in this game, but you saw why his, bad hockey IQ, slowness as a player
Mm-hmm.
hurts you and why you use him as a depth guy. That's it. But Bruce Cassidy wanted changes in this game, and he implemented them with McLaughlin, Bleed, Riley, and Brown all entering the lineup. Tough defense for both of them. Just can't get it done. It gets out too easily. Uh, Brown misses a hit. Tough goal to let up. Great shot by Hughes. Um, Brown and Gearson fought. And it was a great fight. They both hung in there, but Brown, the next period, was eventually hurt and left the game in the second period. So we'll see what's up with him in the future. This was a Jake DeBrusk game, which
He played fantastic. He played like a guy that was on fire half the night.
I did not expect this. Um, it's just been what we've come to expect with DeBrusk. You never really
Mm-hmm.
know.
True, he's an enigma.
And he has good games, but he's never really in the past few years had a good game like this. He
Mm-hmm.
was playing physical more. He's getting into the forecheck. He was capitalizing on turnovers. He was more perceptive in passing lanes. He just looked like a more engaged player as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And he buzzes to start a big point night for him from the neutral zone to the net. Um, puts one past Nico Dawes. Just a great game from him. Good patience by Pasta on the rebound from around the net. He gets it out to Halla buries it. DeBrusk is next to the net. Finds Marchand wide open. Heads up, look to the pass. Finding the loose puck, turning around, getting the pass to Marchand after that. The Bruins are really starting to run away with it. McAvoy carries the puck down the left side, does a little pump fake pivot, stops up, finds Pasta with a nice saucer pass, who just puts the puck in an absolute tee for Bergeron to bury so easily. The chemistry of this team is ridiculous when they have their
Mm-hmm.
top guys on the ice. It's really unprecedented. Besides a team like Colorado, Carolina, Florida, the elite teams can do shit like this, and the Bruins are one of them. Just crazy, high hockey awareness from Charlie McAvoy. He didn't go down deep into the zone hoping he could make a play. He came down going in the defensive zone with the play in mind. He executed it, and it's just a beautiful setup. The Devils just let Bergeron and Mart and Hall chill there, though, in front of the
Mm-hmm.
net. The Devils are just so
Their
atrocious on
defense is
defense.
horrible.
which is weird
Like,
because they Jonas Siegenthaler, who they got from the Capitals, really good guy in his own zone, great young defenseman. Ty Smith, really good defenseman coming out of the draft, doesn't know how to play defense. Like I think the guy would be better suited as a forward, high draft pick. Um, Ryan Graves got him from Colorado, great player, didn't have a great game in this though. Damon Severson potentially on his way out in the future. Great puck moving defenseman, not huge in the defensive zone though, not particularly elite, but solid enough. PK Subban has been bad for 3-4
he
year now.
sucks now.
He's
I never realized it until this game how just like he's just kind of out there. I feel like
he's just not who he was.
yeah.
He makes $9 million off the books in the summer. Just ridiculous to think about. He's
Mhm.
just not good. Um, if he gets more than two, that's just ridiculous in the summer
Mhm.
from a team. Um, but
That
it
also
probably
makes
will
me look
happen because
stupid.
teams overpay.
Mhm. The one thing I was gonna say that also makes me look stupid because I was one of those people that fell into like, oh, PK Subban's available at the trade deadline. That's a name out
He
there. Like,
sucks.
I'm not saying I like desperately wanted him, but I'm like, oh, if there's maybe you can get him cheap, it
Yeah,
wouldn't be the worst thing. After watching that, like, he's
he's
so
brutal.
far past his prime, it's not even funny.
Yeah, Dougie Hamilton, great
Forgot he
start
was
to
in
the
with them
season
too. Yep.
before COVID and a broken jaw. From what I've seen and looked at into the stats, doesn't look he's been quite the same guy since his time off for quite some time with injury and COVID.
Mhm.
Um, so their defense is just a disaster. If I'm them, I'm calling up Kevin Ball. I'm calling up Riley Walsh. I'm getting any young player in the mix as possible to get them season to improve their defense. Because it's bottom five easily, maybe bottom three in the league. It's so
Mhm.
bad. Nico Doss, great young goalie prospect, played for Canada a little bit in the World Juniors. Great young goalie. Just gets shelled in this game. You can't totally exonerate him, but he got shelled in this game. His defense was not there for him. He got absolutely hung out to dry. Got pulled going into the third period. I felt so bad for him. Um, excuse me. Um, mouth's getting a little dry.
Okay.
DeBrusque, speaking of Ty Smith on the defense, buries Ty Smith, hurts him. Not enough to blow the whistle though. Pasta Marshawn Riley, back to Marshawn, bang. NHL 22 goal. Great patience by Riley to find Marshawn at the right time. Um, then the moment of the night, the moment of the season for me. Trent Frederick finds a loose puck in the neutral zone. Has Mark McLaughlin making his debut, the Bill Rickett kid, the BC captain, Captain Clutch, known for so much. I could talk about him for hours.
Hmm.
Um, the perfect situation for his first goal, and he buries it. He makes no mistake. He goes down on one knee on his off wing. Good body control,
Was
good
a
accuracy on that
filthy
shot.
goal.
Just the like, it's something as a young hockey player in Massachusetts Bruins fan that I would dream about scoring my first goal as a Bruin in the
Mhm.
NHL
In the
as a
Garden.
hometown guy at the
Yep.
Garden. Patrice Bergeron, Charlie McAvoy, countless legendary Bruins celebrating with him. Like the Garden going nuts, like it's game 7 against the Leafs. And he scores a DeBrusque type clutch goal, or he scores the game winner in game 7. Maybe not that far in the cup final.
Mhm.
Like he has his friends, his family, his BC teammates, minus Drew Hellison, who's playing in California, was part of the Josh Manson trade, signed with them. I imagine he wasn't there, and maybe others, but it was insane. My family and I, knowing Mark growing up and knowing his family a little bit, he played against my brother for so long. Um, was the best all-around player he ever played against. Could tell he was going to be a stud from the time he was 8 years old. I've been preaching the gospel of Mark McLaughlin. He's a perfect Bruin. He's a perfect bottom 6-4. He can play center of the wing. He kills penalties. He wins faceoffs. He scores clutch goals, even though this was the 7th. He's known as Captain Clutch at BC. He dealt with injuries in the USHL that led to him being undrafted. His agents believed in him. People around him believed in him. Knew he was going to be an NHLer. Me amongst them. Not in terms of being close in the circle, but I could always tell Mark McLaughlin was going to be an NHL player, even when he
Mhm.
struggled a little bit. Um, took a little while to get going with BC. This kid was just a surefire NHLer. If he keeps this up, with guys like Curtis Lazar and Anton Blade free agents in the summer, he's really going to vie for a playoff, a full time role next summer. and into the offseason. Just a perfect goal, perfect moment. He had his second goal called back, which would have been, I mean, if he scored 2 goals, just give him the statue and Bill Ruka.
Hmm.
As a Bill Ruka guy, I need to segue, not segment, to you on this matter. I have to.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, just to echo your points, was an obviously great moment. But like again, like not taking away from his goal, I think not a lot was taught. Like obviously said, his goal was a snipe. Like that was a hell of a find from Trent Frederick too. Like I feel like you don't think
Yeah,
of Trent Frederick as like a
a
playmaker
playmaker.
like that. And obviously, Felger Maz talked about just Frederick knowing like obviously the moment like I've got this kid playing his first game coming up the ice with me. Let's try to get him the puck. But yeah, I mean he from what I saw, majority of the game didn't seem like he looked too shaky out there. Kind of didn't look like the moment was too big for him. Obviously, you mentioned it. Like if I was in that spot, like you said,
Yeah,
hometown team playing in the guard, like I'd be crapping my pants in that spot. I feel like, but he
yeah,
from the get go. I mean, he got interviewed in between the periods. I think the first and second period is when he got interviewed. Seemed you know fine in that too. Wasn't shaky or anything. So like looked like he had been on that third line since the first game of the season. He fit right in there and impressed from the get go. And maybe he's a guy moving forward that you can keep in there. If you want to give him some more opportunities, give some guys some rest as the season goes
yeah,
on.
absolutely.
If he keeps impressing like this, keep him on that third line. I know obviously that kind of might complicate things, but right
Yeah,
now
I think
I'd play him over Nick Foligno right now. I know that might be crazy to say after one
absolutely,
game, but
yeah.
like he showed you more than Foligno has shown you almost all
It's a
season.
it's a great segue, but the thing that hurts them about Foligno is they pay him so much money. He's a veteran guy. It's gonna be tough to keep him out consistently for them
Hmm.
from a respect standpoint.
Yeah,
But Mark
that's true.
McLaughlin and Anton Bleed both belong in the lineup. That's just a
Hmm.
fact. I want to give a shout out as we talked about Matt Grizzlick in this game. I tweeted this out earlier. Matt Grizzlick posted on his story that his dad, who works at the Garden, works with the Bruins. I actually met him at a Bruins development camp one year. Amazing guy. I talked to him for about 10 minutes. Just incredible to meet, a Charlestown blue blood Boston guy like him that's, the father of a guy that was drafted by the Bruins, hometown kid from Charlestown, and has put a formidable role for himself together on a team. Mr. Grizzlick had his final radiation treatment for cancer today.
That is awesome.
John Grizzlick, Matt said, incredibly proud to have been there for it. Never missed a single day of work. Just a legend for that. The best father ever with a heart emote. Shout out to the Grizzlies. They just they're one of those families out there that embody everything about Massachusetts and what makes it great in Boston. Um, these awesome hometown stories like Grizzlick, you have Coyle, you have McLaughlin, that
Hmm.
just
Got
really
a lot of them. Yeah.
things feel meant to be, and all three of them are absolute very sturdy cases at this point. Charlie Coyle had some tough times over the past year, but he's really come into his own and become that legit third liner again that can really dominate. Like the
Hmm.
Bruins with Frederick Coyle and Smith, or even maybe McLaughlin at this point, if he gets more looks there. We don't know when Smith is going to come back from his illness. They have the best third line in the league. You can make the case
Seems like
for.
it. I mean,
It's
Coyle, like you
way
said,
up there, if
Coyle
not the
locks that
best.
down. Like
Coyle
that's
locks it
his
down in
role
the middle.
100%.
The
Like
guy
he's
we
perfect.
expected, the guy we saw from the start. Trent Frederick has completely elevated his game, found what works for him. He's become a better decision maker, less of a hothead, and even as a guy that was drafted as a third liner, like Keith Gretzky said, he's delivering on that and maybe becoming more of the third liner than they expected.
Hmm.
Um, he's just so good. Things are clicking at the right time. We're getting the depth scoring. It's not going to be perfect every night, but right now, for the past few months, it's been better. No, more good than bad, I should say.
Hmm.
It's been awesome. It's been really fun to watch. You get Lindholm, you get Brown in here, you make some changes, make some college free agent signings. You're changing the culture of this team in a good way, and
It's a
you're setting
shot in the
yourself
arm
up.
almost.
It really is.
Like
It's a shot in
not
the arm
saying
for
they
a team that
desperately
didn't
needed
necessarily
it.
need
Like
it. Yeah, exactly.
exactly. Yeah.
But like,
There you
it's
go.
just one to like make him giddy up a little
Yeah.
bit and
Exactly.
kind
Yep.
of realize what they're capable of, elevate their games.
Hmm.
To keep going here, Pasta forces a turnover and finds Taylor Hall for the final goal of the game. Another NHL 22 goal. To recap from the Bruins, Bergeron had a goal and an assist. Pastrnak 3 assists. Marchand 2 goals, almost a hat trick. A called back, a goal and assist for DeBrusque as well as Grizzly. Mark McLaughlin with a goal, his first ever. 45th Bruin to score. Um, no, 45th. Yeah, 45th Bruin to score in his debut. The fifth Massachusetts-born player to score in his debut. We'll get to that in a sec. Howell with a goal. Hall with a goal. McAvoy, Frederick, Riley, and Lindholm all with picking up assists of their own, one each. Massachusetts-born players to score on their debut. Hago Harrington from Melrose, December 29th, 1925. Sean Bates from Medford, October 2nd, 1997. A month and a day before you were born. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes.
That would be correct.
Frank Vetrano from East Longmeadow, currently the New York Rangers now, November 7th, 2015. Ryan Donato, the Scituate, Mass native, the pride of it. March 19, 2018. Never forget that goal against Winnipeg. That's an absolute beauty. And Mark McLaughlin, March 31st, 2022. 3 years and 12 days from Donato's. It was a perfect night pretty much for the Bruins. It really was. The lineup with these changes, for anybody who may be forgetting or didn't see it, Marchand, Bergeron, DeBrusque, Hall, Howell, Pastrnak, Frederick Coyle, McLaughlin, Bleed, Nosek, Lazar, Lindholm, McAvoy, Grizzly, Carla, Riley, Brown. With Brown being injured, they had to move things around. Riley played with McAvoy a little bit. People were moving around. Omar and Swayman holding down the crease as usual, with Omar starting, of course. And after the fact, came some interesting notes from Fluto Shinzawa talking about Mark McLaughlin's performance and how the Bruins approach undrafted free agents. Mark McLaughlin being the latest success story so far. Um, Matt Kedor, who's also, I believe, Zdeno Chara's agent, um, talked about what the culture is the Bruins build. He said what he's done is he's built a culture based on reward. If they play well, they'll be rewarded, and if there's a path with development, I think everybody knows they're going to need time with the AHL. It's going to be a process, but they're good. They have a good system. Uh, why wouldn't you sign there? He could have gone to lesser teams where he could have been guaranteed to have played 25 games guaranteed. But why do that if it doesn't make you a better player and build your base as a player? It's taking the long game rather than instant gratification, becoming right in the NHL and getting a jersey, which in this case, it's working. He practiced with the team for just less than 2 weeks, played a couple days in Providence to practice, I think. Um, Granted, he's going to get a jersey tonight. He's going to play, but he's got to earn it. If he goes down to the minors, then so be it. He understands it. Noel understood it, being Noel Achari. Krug understood it. Miller understood it. It's a process. Just really points to something that anybody paying enough attention knows, that the Bruins really trade undrafted free agents well. And Mark Diver, who is plugged in on all things with the ranks with the Bruins, doesn't think they're done. And I'll talk about players they could sign in a bit, but it really is something special that the Bruins build. And another point from this article was the wonder, though, is how every team said no to McLaughlin in the first place. He went undrafted. The former Cushing Academy Penguins standout was always one of the better Massachusetts players in his birth year. Can confirm the 1999 birth year, watching him play a lot. John Healy, vice president of data collection at Clearsight Analytics, knew this for a while, including me. Not gonna lie. Healy coached McLaughlin during summer showcase tournaments, mostly at the Foxborough Sports Center. Great rink. Healy regularly argued McLaughlin's case. He said, quote, I told everyone in his draft year, all the scouts I talked to, I don't care where you take him, when you take him in the draft. This kid's going to play in the NHL. You want to take him sometime. Healy recalled saying, I honestly just can't believe he was never drafted. It's fascinating to me. I honestly can't give you a real answer other than the production. If you look purely at stat lines, was never high enough for them to think, okay, he scores a lot. That's my only guess. McLaughlin, a player originally committed to Craig Lawrence to play for Greg Carvel before he left for UMass. McLaughlin then flipped his commitment to BC, and it worked out, wouldn't you say? What do you think
I'd
about
say
all
so.
this, explanation of the whole situation for undrafted free agents and McLaughlin, and just how it's crazy how a kid that looks like this, and from my experience more so than yours, know how good he was at BC and growing up. How does a guy like this go undrafted? How interesting is this? It makes him a polarizing player.
I'd say so. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, don't know what goes into the drafting process when it comes to NHL players. But I mean, I don't even know how to describe it because you hear stuff like that and you think immediately your mind could go to oh, maybe he has character problems, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Again,
No,
it seems
definitely not.
yeah, that's what I mean.
I
It
can
seems
tell you that
again,
for a fact.
you obviously from experience knowing the family, obviously again it's been one game, but just watching him looking as professional as he did in that again, so it's again it just goes to show you that drafting and scouting is a crapshoot a lot of the time, or a decent chunk of the time. I mean, shit, we've discussed that plenty of times with the whole Barzal, DeBrusque, all that debate. Teams make mistakes, people make mistakes. This is something that could be a mistake, and then just on the whole undrafted thing for the Bruins. I mean, if it works out, going after these guys that are undrafted, these local guys, it has shown that it has worked out in the past for the Bruins. Why not continue to operate that way? You seem to have hit more home runs than not when it comes to guys like you mentioned with Krug, and stuff like that. So no problems with how they operate there. And then yeah, I couldn't tell you how. Again, I feel like we're talking he's played 20 games and he scored 20 goals. So I
Yeah.
don't want to overstep too much here, but again, you can't go without saying how impressive it was in his debut. And it seems like again the Bruins have found a guy that could produce for this team for years to come, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, for some players, it really works out being undrafted because you get that freedom if you're good enough
You can
to
choose,
pick who
yeah.
you want. But of course, it's not the safest,
That's
bet
true,
out
yeah.
there. But for guys like McLaughlin, it works. Krug, Achari, Miller, Carson Coolman,
Mm-hmm.
um, Austin Zarnik has been one. Guys that work out, not all guys that blow you away like Torrey Krug, but guys that work out. Frank Vetrano out of UMass Amherst
Mm-hmm.
is a big deadline pickup for cheap price for the Rangers to chase a Stanley Cup. That's a guy that's valuable.
Yeah.
He's not valuable as a
Bring something to
superstar,
the table.
but he's valuable in the right role. A guy that in Florida and with the Bruins is mainly a second, third line guy, but can move to the third line, fourth line, second line, first line, anywhere. You can move him up and down. You can play multiple positions. Guys like that are valuable, and Mark is gonna be one of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And he made a hell of a first impression. He talked about how things, were easy for him to loosen up with the team. They made him feel comfortable. It was funny when they had that clock issue last night. He looked
Mm-hmm.
kind of awkward, like he didn't know the guys enough, so he didn't want to go up and talk to them because they were looking at him a lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, you're new to the team. You might as well just coast around and see what happens in a
Yep.
situation like that. But I mean, for anybody who doesn't know how I sing the praises of this kid, he's gonna be an NHL player. He's gonna be an NHL player for a while, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He's built that way. He has been from a young age. He wins faceoffs. He's defensively responsible. He forechecks. He scores clutch goals. He plays hard. Effort's never a question. He's got an underrated shot. Not the greatest you know puck handler, stick handler. Can carry the puck and protect it, but not like a Pastrnak with the hands or anything.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really good fourth liner or middle six forward. He could play second line at times, maybe not permanently. This is a guy that they snagged, and a guy that before it came out officially, I had heard asking around that he had around 20 teams interested in him, even dating back to last season. I don't know if anybody's added that to their report, but I know around 20 teams had interest in signing McLaughlin a year early instead of playing all 4 years like he did at BC. Tons of interest, reasonably so. He had a fantastic junior year, fantastic senior season as well at BC. The interest was very extreme. I know outside of Boston, which of course he wanted to play for, Detroit was a team in the mix. They had him at development camp. They had a lot of interest, a good playing time opportunity for him. Tons of teams, Mark McLaughlin. I can't tell you the team specifically that didn't, but I mean, he was a very highly sought after commodity. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of players in college free agency. Ben Myers will be the next one from Minnesota. They're going to have tons of teams interested in them. We saw his teammate Jack McBain being McLaughlin's traded to the Coyotes for a second round pick. These guys are valuable, and I think the undrafted free agent landscape is going to change in the future. These guys are going to be highly sought after. You have situations like Jimmy Vesey that don't end up working too well. You have situations like Krug, McLaughlin, maybe Ben Meyer someday. Jake Gensel's probably the biggest one at this point in the current day, undrafted. Signs with the Penguins, almost wins the Conn Smythe as a rookie.
That's yeah.
Has the most points of any Penguin in the past 5 years, even over Crosby or Malkin. Yeah, that's a fact. At least at one point, I imagine it's still somewhat true or close to true, if not fully true. These guys can pay off, and teams that pay attention enough to it are going to get rewarded. And teams should model what the Bruins do.
If it
And the
works
Bruins
out,
aren't done,
absolutely.
according to Mark Diver. I'll talk about some fits that they could potentially make happen with college free agents in a little bit. But game previews, you got Columbus twice, a home and home. Sean Crowley, the Legends, return to the Garden. I can't wait for the tribute video. Almost bought tickets, but didn't. Couldn't get enough people to go. Didn't want to go by myself, even though I would, because
Just to go see
Crowley's a
Sean
legend.
Corrali.
Yep. Columbus 32, 31-5, 69.6 in the Metro Division. Patrick Laine amidst his resurgence, just 49 games played this year, but 25 goals, 26 assists, 51 points. They got Tarasov, Ruby, Merzlikins, and Korpisalo all in the mix this year. Merzlikins playing the most, 22, 17, and 5 with a 342 and a 902. Korpisalo dealt with injury problems with a 415 and 877, 711 in record. They got Ruby and Tarasov. First of all, home and home. Their attempted Cinderella run has not worked out in Columbus, to be honest with you. It's slipping away, even though Washington isn't playing good lately, but they'd have to put on a crazy run in the last 15 games to make shit happen here. But then you got them on the road as well. Same deal. On the 4th, then you got Detroit 26-39 and 9, or 26-32 and 9, 61 points, 5th in the Atlantic. Dylan Larkin leads them in scoring point per game. 62 games played, 28, 34, and 62. Alex Nedeljkovic, 17, 20, and 8 in net, 330 goals against and a 900 save percentage. Crazy stat line, honestly. 2 shutouts. Thomas Greiss, 8, 11, and 1, 379 and 885. Kevin Pickard, up on emergency loan, 429, 1 0 record, and an 875 save percentage. Things have just not been good. They had a hot start to the season, but things have really fell off slowly more over time. They lost 11-2 to the Penguins on Sunday. Have won just 2 of the last 10 games. This should be a win for the Bruins, no doubt. How you feeling about the upcoming slate of games? You as excited for the Sean Corelli return to the Garden as I am?
Not as much as you are. I mean, there's a massive man crush that you've had on Sean Crowley for quite some time.
He's just a man. He's a
I just see him
maniac.
as another. I mean, this is gonna sound awful, but just
Career
another
year.
fourth line
Career
guy.
year in Columbus.
All right,
Career
well,
year. Makes
that works
2.5
for
million
him.
a year. Rock star.
There you go.
But
he's
the most hilarious hockey player I've ever watched. He's just a complete
like him,
maniac.
there you go.
Big reason to like him.
Mm-hmm.
Just yeah, I miss him. I gotta be honest, I do. I really
can
miss
tell.
him.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, not as it seems like strenuous as the stretch they just had. So hopefully they can build off of what was a great game. The other night against New Jersey, obviously put the pounding to Columbus for 2 straight games, and then hopefully the Detroit games I feel like are always weird ones because you always expect the Bruins to go in there and manhandle them, and it always seems like Detroit plays Boston hard for whatever reason. So hopefully that's not one of those illustrious trap games that's come to be in the past, and hopefully they can come out of this stretch with a decent amount of points and continue the big roll they've been on.
Yeah, that's all you can hope for at this point. Let's check in on Hampus Lindholm, one of the newest Bruins, and the Bruins. 2 assists in 4 games plus 3 rating. The guy just fits
He's
the
been
bill.
Great. Yep, he's been the guy they needed.
Crisp cross-ice passes, exactly the guy they need. He's assertive on the breakout. He makes quick decisions. He's a great puck handler, very sound with the puck on his stick. Just has some power behind everything he does. He's 6'4", 220, 221. Such a massive boost makes McAvoy, Grizzly, and Carlos' jobs all so much easier. Everybody on the defensive core, anybody on the ice. He's just, I'm not gonna sing the praises of him too much, but a guy like that makes a difference on everybody on the ice with him.
Absolutely.
100%. Since Jaylen Brown's energy tweet, the Bruins are 17-5-2. So just for the people who may or may not be keeping track at home, like me, They're just cooking. This
It's
team
all
is
about
cooking.
the planet alignments and whatever the hell he was talking about when he tweeted that out. The energies and the auras of people and
I'm not gonna lie. I think he spoke to Trevor Story signing into existence.
yeah.
Trevor Story signed long after that. Maybe that's the energy he was feeling. Maybe the
He
Patriots are going
needs
to be
to
better than we expect.
he needs to take Matt Judon's role then of trying to get people to come here. Then
Yeah,
he's a little late
just
to the
like
party if that's
just
the
like
case.
hypnotize people, you know.
Yep. Yeah.
Um, I mean, the Bruins are just cooking. Outside of that Toronto game, they're cooking.
Mhm.
I'll say it again. They've been the best team in the league overall since January 1st. And I don't think that's outlandish to say. Um, the thing I want to ask you, and maybe we'll have a debate on this, maybe we won't. Are they peaking too soon?
I mean, I don't know that question. That question was asked about the Celtics again a week ago, and it was debated by them too. I mean, it's just such a weird thing because every sport's different. I mean, I honestly don't know because the NHL playoffs is such a different beast. Like we've seen teams that you don't expect. I mean, again, it's an awful example to bring up, but we keep bringing up. So when we talk about the goaltending and stuff like that, St. Louis, like they got hot at the right time, went on a roll, and you saw what happened. So that's what I mean. I mean, no one expected them to do anything in that playoffs, and that's what happened. So you get what I'm getting at. So like I said, to give a crappy, how many games are left in the NHL season? Do you know off the top of your head? At
Depends
least
on
for
the
the Bruins,
team. I
rather.
think the most games played by any team, not including games played tonight, is 69. Nice.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say you don't
I'm
know how
not
many
kidding.
games
Yeah.
the. Okay, I thought you
I
were.
don't think anybody's hit 70 yet.
No, okay. So that's what I mean. I don't know how many games the Bruins have left off the top of my head. Like,
They're like 42, 20, and 5. That's 67.
okay. I
15.
don't. That's what I mean. I don't know. Like, to me, it's still too far out. There's still a little bit of time left. There's still games to be played. So like, I it's a bad answer. I don't know. I don't know how to answer it. Do you think they are?
I don't
Do
think
you think
so.
they are? No.
I think it's easy to
I just
think
think they're
that,
just gonna
but
roll. Yeah. Like,
I think it's easy to think that, but you have to believe it too. You can think it because it's a
yeah, it's
popular
true.
opinion. You think it's possible, but do you actually believe it? I don't. I
No.
think this is sustainable. I think it's a different mold, a different vibe to the team than in years past. The
Hmm.
secondary scoring, different composition with the lines with Marshawn and Pasternak, the additional Lindholm.
Hmm.
You got your college free agents. You got Josh Brown if you need him. Cody
This is
Curran in
the
the minors.
deepest
Like
they've been in a
they
while, in
got
a
they've got
long time.
legit
It feels
depth,
like. Yeah.
legit depth.
Like.
Even if up front with forward too.
Hmm.
You keep Foligno in, you have Anton Bleed to slot in if you need to. Anton Bleed's a goddamn maniac more often than not.
Hmm.
That's a guy you want in the lineup. If Nick Foligno weren't here, he would be in the lineup every single night. Um, it just things feel really good. Things feel really good with this team. I'm very impressed. I'm very encouraged. Taylor Hall has elevated his game for a long time now. Charlie Coyle, Craig Smith, Trent Frederick, Eric Howell has been a really good complementary piece on the second
He's been
line.
the arguably the biggest surprise of the year. I mean,
He's the seventh player. He's the seventh
yeah,
player.
yeah. You don't see him as a second line center, but I mean, he's fit that role tremendously since they put him into it. Like
It's the
again.
exact it's the exact ideal situation because, you know, I can't blame play some people when Taylor Hall was traded. Oh, what can you do with Pasternak? They should explore that.
Hmm.
They found the right billing outside of Krejci, which
Yeah.
is obviously not a possibility anymore. And Eric Howell is like your best case scenario. Sure, Coyle could be fine there, but what
Hmm.
does that do to the third line? Does Howell gel as well with them as as Coyle would?
Hmm.
They just made it work.
Yeah.
And Eric Howell looked like a tough signing even for 2 years at some point. Yeah, I was a bit down on him at times, but
I
he
was
settled in the
massively
right
down on him
role.
at the start of the year. Like you
And
have a
it's
fourth line guy
humongous.
playing second line center, and it's completely flipped on that narrative is flipped on its head completely. I think.
But it's good they found it to work because he's a fourth line guy, but he's got good enough hands and good enough, offensive ability to
Hmm.
believe that he can elevate his game. And he has. This is a guy that, for the past had a good playoff run with Vegas in the past, one in particular. Um, maybe he keeps us going in the playoffs and becomes a surprise impact player as he continues this fantastic season he's putting together mainly in the second half. Um, as a 31-year-old with 1 year left on his contract. It's really encouraging. There's a lot more encouraging things about this team than there is not. His top year in the playoffs was 9 points in 20 games, but for his role on that team, that was pretty good. Side notes on the team: Urho Vakanainen tallied his first point as a Duck in a 3-2 OT loss last night. Looked like it was finally his, but it was tipped. He had his first career goal called back with the Bruins at one point this year. The guy just can't get his first career goal. He can't catch a break. Had to
Snake
lose
bitten in
their
the
first
worst way
goal.
possible.
The Ducks have since selling off in a great way because they got really good returns on each of those trades they made, selling off pieces. Um, they've lost 11 in a row.
Jesus.
Still a great team.
Pretty bad.
Not a great team. I shouldn't say that at all.
I wouldn't call a great team
A
a team
good
that's lost
team,
11 in a row.
even without those players, they've got pieces. It's not like they're complete dumpster fire, but when you trade guys like Lindholm, Manson, Ricard Raquel, all legit impact players, things are going to change. But the Ducks have done a really good job building for the next wave. They got a new GM and Patri, so that makes sense. Shout out to Colin Delia, Merrimack guy. Massive save, strong save last night against the Panthers. Highlight reel. Two of the goals he let up really weird that weren't called off for goalie interference, partially because of contact from Chicago players. He had two of the goals he let up being goals that he was made contact with and couldn't really make a save. Interesting, tough luck. Shout out to the Boston Pride, back-to-back champions, win the Isabel Cup. Celebrating at the Bruins game, celebrating accordingly, wearing like bucket hats and sunglasses on the ice, having fun. First team to go back-to-back in NWHL, I guess technically slash PHF history. Shout out to the Boston Pride. Team's a wagon. Anybody who's not, at least giving some appreciation of the Pride for what they've accomplished as a team in a new league. Like, get with it, support the cause. They're a great team. Players that work multiple jobs too. It's not the most glamorous professional athlete lifestyle, and they power through it. They enjoy it, and they are trying to grow the league. So I have tons of respect for them for that. And they're succeeding. Cassidy hoped to get Riley Brown McLaughlin in the lineup soon. Huge for Riley to reestablish himself. Brown and McLaughlin made their debuts. Bleed got in there too. It really worked out well because he needed changes after the Toronto game, and he got them. Even though they came back to make it 6-4, just a tough game. Some undrafted free agents I think they could go after. Going forward, Parker Ford for Providence could very well happen. He went to dev camp in the summer. Went to Providence College. I've had allergy and like sore throat, dry throat stuff for 2 weeks.
Bad,
it's so bad.
Yep.
So bad. Been coughing like a maniac. If there's the next guy at forward, it's Parker Ford for the Bruins. They want to sign another player. Right winger, great player. Grinder, bottom six guy. Ben Myers, the top guy remaining, maybe the top guy going into the undrafted free agent period for Minnesota. Will probably go to a team that gives him immediate NHL ice time, but we'll see. The top guy on the market has really evolved well. Another guy that went to Bruins dev camp, but I don't know if he'll sign with the Bruins at this point. That would be create kind of a long jam, and I think he could get more opportunity elsewhere. Reese Gaber from North Dakota, eliminated from North Dakota. Possible player. He's a center that this team, could afford to add to their center depth a little more in the prospect core, but haven't heard of any interest, so don't know if he'll sign with the Bruins or not. I really like Reese Gaber, though, kind of just like a buzzsaw, little undersized forward, left-handed forward, good player. Ethan Frank, possible another guy I haven't heard any interest in, but he scored the most goals of any player in college hockey this year at Western Michigan. Unfortunately for him, he was a no-show against Minnesota. They got eliminated by Minnesota. He had 2 shot attempts as the top goal scorer in the nation. Did not score a single goal. Didn't get a shot on net. Rumor was earlier in the week that he could have a deal by midweek. Now we're at Friday. He doesn't. So he's still making his decision clearly. Another guy, a right winger, high scoring upside the Bruins could sign, but haven't heard of any interest. But if I do, hear of any interest in Frank, I will let the people know, but maybe I'll ask around a little bit. Noah Philp from the University of Alberta in Canada, outside the box option, another center, had a really good season at the University of Alberta. Shout out to Chris Peters from Daily Faceoff and Hockey Sense with Chris Peters suggesting Noah Philp as an outside of the box option outside of the United States, and Brandon Bussey, who I had in the outline from Tuesday as with Callum Booth and Troy Grosnick free agents in the minors, they could sign for a goaltender of the future in the minors, maybe in the NHL level. Not sure with the Bruins situation that's possible. But Brandon Bussey eliminated like Ethan Frank from Western Michigan by Minnesota. It worked out. I kind of willed it into existence. No big
There you
deal.
go.
Signs a 1 year
Can see the
deal.
future.
Yeah, signs a 1 year ELC, which is a really good undrafted goalie. Kind of the first guy that came to mind as a guy that was probably going to be eliminated early, sadly, for him in the tournament with Western Michigan, just not quite stacking up. I willed it into existence. He signs a 1 year entry level contract that kicks in next fall. He'll join Providence on an amateur tryout agreement for the rest of the season. So good for him. Good to add some depth. I imagine they'll let one of, if not both of Grosnick and Booth go. Kyle Keyser is an restricted free agent, so we'll see what they do with the goaltending situation down there. Bussy will be in the mix with the Maine Mariners and the Providence Bruins. Speaking of the Providence Bruins, they added 25-year-old right shot defenseman Jacob Wilson from Arizona State and Grant Gabriel, teammate of Bruins prospect Mason Lohrei from OSU. Both signed 1 year AHL deals starting next season with amateur tryout agreements starting next for the remainder of this season. Brady Lyle, a guy that had a good preseason and kind of fell out of favor in Providence, traded to Springfield at the AHL trade deadline for future considerations. And Providence captain Josiah Didier signed a 1 year AHL extension with the Providence Bruins, get to lock up a core piece of their defensive core, a good leader for them and the Bruins prospects. Things go well all throughout. Um, Another note I want to make: Oscar Jelvik, the fifth-round pick of the Bruins this year, is crushing it over in Sweden, bound for Providence, not Providence College, Boston College next fall. So I'm very excited to watch him. Just keep an eye out for Oscar Jelvik because it looks like he's turning into some really nice mid to late round value for the Bruins. The Bruins are buzzing. Big week ahead, but that's about it for me for hockey. Any additional thoughts from you?
Not really. Like I said, just go out and get the points and the wins you need to against not these, cupcake games coming up, but some, like I said, some easier games than you've had in the past week. Hopefully you get to see more of McLaughlin moving forward. Maybe he can stick in this lineup, make some things complicated with, when guys, like you said, like Smith comes back, Foligno comes back, where they might end up. The one point I was going to bring up, if you want to get into conspiracy theories with maybe, again, we talked about it after the trade deadline, keep an eye on DeBrus to see if his consistency dips, what he does. The more you talked about McLaughlin, you see him as a guy that maybe can get moved around. The thought I had that came to be was we talked about DeBrusque having one of his better games of the season. McLaughlin's in the lineup. You said maybe you think he moves up and down. Craig Smith has played on that top line right wing before.
I'll be
maybe
honest,
you put McLaughlin up there.
real quick. When I thought of Mark McLaughlin signing with the Bruins after the BC season ended,
top line right
I'm
wing.
not gonna lie, I put him on the top line. I'm not kidding.
Very high on this kid.
I talked to my dad. You can succeed on the top line with Marchand and Bergeron.
You have to
practically
have
a pulse. You have to practically have a pulse. And Mark McLaughlin has more of a pulse. If you need it, Mark McLaughlin can succeed there. I 100% believe that. We didn't even mention Tuukka's retirement ceremony, which was awesome with his whole family. McLaughlin, for anyone who didn't know, slotted in for Smith with an illness. Foligno was day-to-day, so Bleeth slotted in. Good to see the greatest goalie in Bruins history. One of the greatest goalies in the history of the NHL, honored by the team with a ceremonial puck drop, hanging out with the boys and all that.
I'm not saying I agree with you and all that. I'm not saying I hated the ceremony by any means. But Wednesday night for the Celtics was Tommy Heinsohn night. I find it a little strange that the very next night, because I didn't honestly know the Bruins were honoring Tuukka Rask until I pulled up.
They announced it
Thursday
like 3 weeks ago.
Oh, did they? Okay, so I must have missed it because I saw that and I'm like, that's a little strange. It seems kind of tacked on, at least to me, that Tommy Heinsohn for the Celtics was last. All right, so that kills that thought and narrative and conspiracy theory then. So never mind. I'm out of Bruins thoughts then.
I thought you were about to segue into the fact that Jake DeBrusk with that game is playing himself into staying with the Bruins, which at this point I'll add this quickly.
I don't think it's going to be
Jake
the case.
DeBrusk, is great when he plays like this, but you just can't rely on it.
Nope.
But if it finally pays off at some point and he wants to stay, he has a change of heart, so does his agent. Keep him here. Don't care.
Absolutely.
More consistently than not, he's a guy that can score 50 points in a full season, without a doubt in my mind. 20 goals minimum. Just a matter of whether he dials in for it. Yeah, Tuukka gets the ceremony. The haters are sick, of which there are many.
There are a lot.
Tuukka Rask is the greatest goalie ever in the history of the Bruins. He played 15 years. Like,
there are
show him
stats
some
to back
goddamn
that
respect.
up.
Yeah, plenty of them. You wanna talk about it? DM me at Mike_Craddy on Twitter. I'm happy to talk to you.
Sound like fighting words.
Yeah, they are fighting words.
Right.
Because I don't know if there's any haters that listen to this, but like, I got an argument, like not a passionate argument, but a little debate with a guy at 7-Eleven about Tuukka Rask.
Oh God.
Like, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. But the Bruins are buzzing. We'll see how they do this week. Some definitely winnable games. 2 against Columbus, 1 against Detroit. But yeah, feeling good. How can you not about the Bruins? They're a legit cup contender right now. And I'm getting more and more close to saying they can get to the cup finals, but I'm not fully there yet.
A couple more things need to go right.
Yeah. Patriots, though.
They have finally signed someone, thank Christ.
Start out the news cycle. They hosted Jabril Peppers on Monday, signed to a 1-year deal on Tuesday. This deal for $5 million for a year makes too much sense to not make at this point. They had to shell out some of that cap space they had maneuvered a little bit for, whatever, release Van Noy for, to do something. And this makes me feel a little bit better about the secondary, because the corner group is a little rough, but now you got Devin McCourty back, who will still be serviceable, more likely than not. Adrian Phillips around for a few more years.
Still got
now
Duggar.
You have Jabril Peppers, Kyle Duggar, Joshua Bledsoe, and Cody Davis. This is really solid.
So the safeties are good. The
really solid
safety
suck,
but the safeties
and the safety
are good.
position and alignments are a little bit flexible, so they can make things work. It's gonna depend on what they do in the draft, but I'm kind of feeling more and more comfortable with the secondary, because I think with their slow approach, they have to have a good idea in mind with blending corners and safeties into the right mix to make a serviceable enough secondary. Because right now it's not good enough, no doubt overall.
No, not even close.
But at least serviceable enough that they're not going all out. Because some of the top players are gone, but they could be vying on the trade market, seeing what's out there, and they aren't. But with the right moves in the draft and maybe a free agent move or two in the linebacker corner core, it looks like they're building something nice. And Jabril Peppers is not only a safety that can make plays in the secondary, but he can also come up on the blitz. He's aggressive, a freakish athlete out of Michigan, one of the more athletic players in that whole draft, his draft year. It's an exciting player, and he's back with Joe Judge, who he's the captain under and has succeeded with the Giants. How do you feel about the Jabril Peppers deal overall?
I like it. From everyone I've heard, it seems like a positive move. Seems like a good move. Like you said, it maybe shores up that secondary a little bit. I'm curious to see, obviously, you can only play 2 safeties at a time, right? So it'd be very interesting to see, how they deploy this guy along with all the other guys you mentioned. But again, I mean, to me, like just with how I felt about this season as off season as a whole, I know there's still time left, but with everything else that's been done, to me, it just feels like it's like a little too late in a sense. Like,
yeah, in a way,
it kind of, but like again, it is building blocks to maybe something else. Like you said, the draft obviously coming up, they can make some moves there, do some stuff, but it's a nice move. See how it works out. But again, nothing I'm too overly like. I think just my piss poor attitude towards the Patriots offseason as a whole has kind of clouded a move that probably looks good to definitely looks good to a lot of people. Just to me, it's like, all right, it's a move, it's nice. Just doesn't really, at least to me, help you compete with everything else that has gone on with the teams that you'll be competing against. Exactly, that's what it seems like too. It's like I thought I heard he had an ACL injury last year. Was coming off some sort of
it's a proven
major
deal.
injury.
You got the upside. can you tap into it? If so, we'll give you a little more
A raise,
leeway to
little
stick
yeah.
around here. A
Yep.
little raise, maybe. Jonathan Jones tweeted about positionless football long before this signing being the future on March 17th on May. Could that be cluing at the defensive structure kind of goes into what I'd say?
I
Maybe
think
they
it
have
has
whole
to.
different plans to kind of throw people off because the AFC is getting better. Why not try and get a little different and see how it
Mm-hmm.
works? Maybe it helps you. Notes from Belichick and Kraft. Belichick is the same old self down in Florida, answering questions,
Did
as he usually
nothing.
does.
Yep.
His same old shit. Matt Patricia and him were not in the coach's photo.
Of course.
Very funny. Kraft is bothered by the 3-year playoff skid, reasonably so. Not achieving as much as they maybe could, and will let at the same time Bill Belichick essentially do whatever he wants with the offense. And he says this will be a good year and is confident in Mac Jones to take the next step. Um, Anything that sticks out to you about these comments?
I mean, to some extent, the bothered by the 3-year playoff skid stands. I mean, obviously, that to me, I feel like it's just an owner like saying what everybody else is thinking. Like
Yeah,
he's not going to sit there and be like, okay, well, like it's good we missed the playoffs 3 years, or have had one playoff win in 3 years, stuff like that. But to that too, it's like, okay, if you're that bothered by it, like, why didn't you do anything this offseason? Like, you're the owner of the team. Take some control. I know everyone talks about like, oh, it's Belichick making the decisions. He's running the show. Kraft's the owner. Take control.
yeah,
Do what I'm assuming you did last season and say, hey, go out and spend some money, stupid. So we can compete with the team and maybe try to have a bounce back year after Tom Brady just won the Super Bowl and kind of made us look stupid. So yeah, like that to me, I'm like, okay, well, if you can't be too bothered by it if like there really hasn't been too much of a plan this offseason and you've kind of let Bill Belichick, again, to me, mess up the coaching staff entirely. Like, not do anything to put yourself really all that much in competition with everybody else in the AFC and this division in general. So again, it's a kind of, for me, like, wait and see how this works out. Like, I'm not, again, overly thrilled for this upcoming season. Again, that could maybe change with how things go for the next couple months and of course the draft. But like, again, to me, it was just like, all right, this is the owner just saying owner things. Like, he's not going to come out and really say anything too crazy or like that'll make you think too much.
yeah. I'm kind of on board with what they're doing offensively in terms of the play calling. I think Brian Hoyer is potentially going to be their offensive coordinator essentially. Um, I'm
Which
honestly
is
cool
still
with that
wild to me,
because he's
like a
been
guy on
he's
the
been
roster.
around long enough.
True, but again,
Um,
that's just crazy to me that a guy who's actively on the roster is going to and taking up a
he's on the
roster spot.
sidelines, so
I get, yeah, it's
kind of in the
true, but
same role. Um, Speaking of teams around the Patriots, like I mentioned earlier, from Josina Anderson earlier, just about like an hour or two ago, about Xavier Howard saying he agrees to terms on a 5-year contract
5-year extension, I saw
with
that.
$50.691 million in new money for new money API of 25.3 million, highest ever new money average by over 5 million for his agent David Cantor. Howard becomes the first cornerback in the NFL to have 5 years of his playing careers contract fully guaranteed. His average per year for a cornerback is the highest in the NFL, most fully guaranteed money in the NFL history by a cornerback, according to his agent.
Good for him.
Xavier Howard,
Makes
dude,
the
like
division a lot tougher.
doesn't stick out quite as like Jalen Ramsey or
Mm-hmm.
whoever, Jair Alexander, any top corner, J.C. Jackson, you want to say, but like Xavier Howard's fucking phenomenal. So
Very good corner. I'd take him in
very
a
well
heartbeat.
deserved.
Yep.
Really, really, really good player. Um, Unheralded by some, stupidly so. Mock draft season. I have to get into some draft stuff, especially when I
This
see
is
two really good mock drafts. I've been
all
doing
you.
them.
I've seen nothing about drafts, so the
I've
floor
been
is
doing
yours
mock
to
drafts for
explain away
fun and
this.
getting a little excited with the PFF mock draft tool. I tweeted one out. Um, this first one from Alex Barth. If you're not following Alex Barth, by the way, like you gotta. He's so good with Patriots content, so good with draft content. Him and Evan Lazar, just unreal with the draft content. Ryan Spagnoli as well. Um, he has his mock draft edition 2.0. Patriots trading the 21st overall pick along with nothing, but them getting pick 31, 63, and 226 from the Bengals, which I'd be totally cool with. To
I
trade down
could see
and
that
select
happening.
Kyrie Elam. I don't know if I mentioned it a couple weeks ago, but the more and more with their approach to the offseason, I feel like they're going to go for quantity over quality.
I was
In
just gonna say the
some
same thing.
in some extent, they want
Mm-hmm.
obviously good quality, but they want a litany of picks
Mm-hmm.
to give themselves the best options. You acquire picks, maybe that allows you to move up by leveraging those extra picks. If they got Kyrie Elam, who Alex has them getting at 31, I'd be totally cool with that. I think
He's one of the
Kyrie
few
Elam
names I've heard of, to be honest. Like,
Kyrie Elam could go as high as 19, I think, if the Eagles like him enough. More likely the 20 to like 50 at the lowest range. I think he probably goes around 30 to 38. Personally, he's a lengthy corner from Florida. I really like what I've watched and read about Kyrie Elam. He ran a 4.39 at the combine, the eighth fastest among the corners, 6'1", 191. But you kind of look at him and feel like he's bigger than that. That's at least how I look at him. Great player, would be very cool with it. Christian Watson from North Dakota State at pick 54 in the second overall and the second round pick for the Patriots. Really love his size. The fact that he ran a 4.36 as a 6'4", 208 receiver is
it's
pretty
pretty good.
impressive. Um, a guy that might fly under the radar a little to some people because he plays in the FCS. Doesn't play the best competition on the North Dakota State team, but he's a good player. We've seen Trey Lance, we've seen Carson Wentz from North Dakota State in years past. Some good players, a little inconsistent at times, but they met with Watson in the Senior Bowl. I really like his length, his size. Can move really well for a big guy. I'd be very, very cool with Christian Watson dropping to 54, but I don't think he will. But it's possible. We'll never know. We'll never know until we see it. Kirby Joseph at pick 63. I like Kirby Joseph. I've heard kind of mixed things on him, but he's a safety from the University of Illinois. Pick 63 would be one of the picks they acquire from the Bengals in his mock. I like Joseph. He adds to a good young safety group that's a little up and coming, but also has good veterans. Wouldn't be a terrible guy to add if you get this extra pick from the Bengals. Adrian Phillips could be the leader in the mix when McCourty eventually retires. Cody Davis is in the mix. Miles Bryant can play safety, but I think of him more of a slot corner as a smaller guy.
Mm-hmm.
But he can play safety. Next up is Dylan Parham. Dylan Parham, I like more and more I've read on him recently over the past month. Seems like a mauler who can play guard. Um, that's his natural position from Memphis. I really like the pick. Really like everything I've read about him. Would be very cool with adding a guard to the mix. With Shaq Mason being gone,
Mm-hmm.
being traded. Zion McCollum. Zion McCollum at this point being available at a Sam Houston State, a college a lot of people listening may not have heard of, had a fantastic combine performance. He's a corner. Just absolutely burst onto the scene. 6'2", 199. Has some decent size, bigger than Curry Elam. Um, he's a ball hawk corner. If you want to look for a ball hawk, I think he could go as high as the second round. Alex has him lasting to the fourth. I don't think he will personally, based off what I've read, but you never freaking know. 13 interceptions, 54 PBUs, and 56 career games. Ran a 4.33 at the combine though, which really got people on the map for him. And he's really rising. There's always rises in every draft. Um, Again, the FCS level, you wonder about competition level for a guy like him. Um, Looks like, as Alex mentions here, the first thing I thought of when I looked him up after seeing his combine performances, can he be a guy that plays on the boundary or is a depth boundary corner? And he is. Great minds think alike, I guess. Another trade at pick 170 in round 5. Patriots would get a 2025 fifth and seventh from the Panthers for pick 170. I'd be totally cool with this. I feel like
Yep.
Belichick loves the idea of acquiring future picks just for fun. Maybe he doesn't like his options at the board. Maybe feels like he can acquire some future picks to give him, lottery balls into finding a nice late round pick in future years. Cade Mays, a guy who I did not know about this article. He's an offensive lineman from Tennessee who has played all 5 offensive line positions at Tennessee.
That sounds like a perfect Patriot.
I'm cool with
Sorry to
Cade
take the
Mays.
words out of your mouth if that's what you were going to say. But
I'm happy you did because, I mean, this guy seems like a rock star. How can you not take a flyer on him, a pick 200 in the draft if he's available? You know, you can afford some depth in the offensive line. According to Barth, he is a big mauler at 6'5", 325, pretty solid line, pretty solid size, I'd say, for a guard, a swing guard, as he said. Um, Very versatile. I love it. Love a good versatile weapon. Shout out to Bengal on YouTube. For that, he loves talking about versatile weapons. Another guy I learned from this article, LeBron Ray from Alabama.
there
So
you go.
you
We've
know
had some success with the Alabama
Belichick
guys.
and Matt Groh, or no, Elliot Wolf now. Love him. He can play off the edge. He can play interior defensive line. LeBron Ray from Alabama, slightly undersized yet very strong, athletic defensive lineman, cut from a similar mold as Christian Barmore, which is pretty dope. But outside of the top 200, it makes sense to take on a chance on a player with terrific athletic upside like him. The Patriots are always looking to add stout, versatile players up front defensively. At 6'5", 295, Ray fits the mold at tackle and end. The question is, can he stay on the field consistently enough to develop his game? That the way I look at injury history with certain players is that can change at any point. He could be a perfect bill of health in the NFL. This is a guy I think you absolutely take a gamble on. Another guy I like not mentioned in the mock is Adam Anderson. If he falls this far, he's an edge rusher from that stacked University of Georgia defense. Expected to fall maybe 4th to 6th rounds, but I'd love to snag Adam Anderson. Another guy I'll throw out there. And round 7, pick 226, Nate Landman, another guy I learned about in this article from Colorado. Linebacker depth. Don't love not taking a linebacker early, but
yeah, that's the one knock I have.
That's the one knock, but this guy seems like a decent player. They do have some young defensemen outside of Raekwon McMillan and Therese Hall who could step up. But 6'2", 238, as Barth mentions here, not a great frame for a Patriots prototypical linebacker. You want him a little bigger. But he makes up for his lack of size with good instincts and willingness to throw the body around. At the very least, he projects as a core special teams player and then can work himself into a rotational role on defense. I like it. I really like this mock draft from Barth. Again, if you don't follow Alex Barth, I think you're missing out. He posts just such good content, such genuinely informative content from his point of view of things as a big college football fan. How do you feel about that group overall?
I honestly like the two corners in the first 3 rounds, 4 rounds?
4.
4 rounds, okay. Yeah, I mean, losing J.C. Jackson, I mean, that hurts. It goes without saying. Like, I think your corner depth arguably might be. I mean, even with like we just said, the linebacker pick late in the draft, like, it's not what we like to see, but Barth was going to mention, like, and this is what's something a lot of people have talked about. Like, they seem like they want to give guys like McGrow, McMillan, Therese Hall, see what you have about him. I mean, they did bring back Juwan Bentley, so they do have a little bit of depth at linebacker. They want to maybe give some of these young guys a chance, so I guess that kind of explains away why a linebacker isn't taken earlier on. So then you jump to, what the second biggest need to some people might be, and that is corner. So I like having two corners taken kind of earlier on in the draft. Obviously replenish that. You mix a wide receiver in there. I mean, there are some other needs too. I mean, maybe some people might say, okay, maybe you need another running back. I mean, you can get guys like that in the undrafted free agency, stuff like that. So I'm fine with a lot of these picks. A lot of them, like the article kind of skimming through it here, talks about. It seems like it's a drafting of like needs, or not needs, of depth drafting more so than compared to like actual needs. So like a lot of those moves I'm cool with. Like, and again with the trading backup picks too, like we mentioned early on when you started this, like this is one of the rare years I'm fine with that because I feel like you have so many kind of holes you need to fill, like get as many picks as you can. So if they were to go into the draft and start trading down picks left and right, like I feel like that's something that for a change a lot of people might not be opposed to.
Yeah, you're taking scratch tickets at that point if you're trading
Pretty
down.
much, yeah.
Henry McKenna's mock from PFF would also be awesome in my opinion. He dropped that I think yesterday. Having Kyrie Elam with the Patriots trading down with the Bills of all teams, getting 25 and 57 for 21. I'd do that in a heartbeat personally. And still snagging Kyrie Elam at 25, a guy I talked about his range. I think it would be fine value at 25. Troy Anderson, out of Montana State, a linebacker, one of the best athletic profiles of linebackers in recent years, and in the combine this year. Not a guy like watching him a little bit that like blows you away with speed, but
Hmm.
really blows you away with power. He can be a sideline to sideline linebacker if he needs to, from what I've gathered. He's a good tackler, aggressive. I really like what I see. He's a big riser, one of those risers this year. John Mechie at 57 would be ridiculous. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say that I recognize his name too. If he can,
I could I
everything
could
I've
pass
seen on
out.
him has been a high projected pick. I know he had a what's it,
I could pass
Achilles
out
injury. What was his injury?
something crazy. I could
Yeah.
pass out at the thought of John Mechie. When I watched him at Alabama this year, and the games I did watch, I wasn't overly impressed with him.
Hmm.
But the more and more I read about him, the more and more I read about his connection with Mac Jones, potentially bouncing back, looking good, recovering. 57, it's worth a shot.
I
It's
would say so.
absolutely
Yeah,
worth a
that's the
shot.
wide receiver you take a chance on. I feel like if you're gonna go one in the
I'm
middle,
gonna
or
put it out
not a middle
there.
round, but
I think he's an option for the last pick of the first round with the Lions. I
mhm.
don't think they would, but I think he could go as high as the Jaguars pick, 33. I think the Lions could like him in the second round, early the second round. They apparently like Wan'Dale Robinson also with that second round pick early. Um, John Mechie should go in the top 40 picks because receivers are so valuable. At the end of that top 40, you have Chicago, could be in the market for a receiver, offensive lineman, whatever, a corner. John Mechie could be there at the 39. Might as well take him off the board for some guys. If John Mechie made it to 54, 57, that'd be ridiculous
It'd be
because
dumb not to take him. I feel like.
him and Mac Jones love each other. They have that connection. You know, it's one of those guys, I feel like every draft has one or two guys that have a bad injury and people kind of forget about him a little bit and undervalue him. And
Hmm.
then he ends up being awesome. David Ojabo is going to be one of those guys. Considered one of the best pure athletes in the draft. Tears his Achilles as an edge rusher at Michigan's Pro Day. He'll probably fall into the second round, but any team that can keep him healthy and get him going might get one of the better edge rushers in the league someday. You never know. The kid's got freak lengthy athleticism. John Mechie would be a ridiculous value in this trade, and he'd be stealing a little bit of that value from the Bills because that'd be a pick from the Bills trade. Max Mitchell, another riser, could go as high as the early second round. Probably not, but offensive tackle out of Louisiana. Really had a good Senior Bowl and Combine. I think Combine, more so Senior Bowl. Maybe I'm mixing them up. Then you draft another tackle on Zach Tom. Don't love drafting two tackles. Don't think you need
Yeah,
that.
back to back is
But
yeah.
they give him a B minus grade in PFF here. Don't know a lot about Zach Tom, to be honest. Bo Melton, another one of those mid-round receivers, mid to late round receivers with that athleticism you take a chance on. I'd be totally cool with Bo Melton here at 170. Really like that pick. Think he could be a decent receiver in the NFL someday. Chigoziem Okonkwo, um, a tight end from Miami or Maryland. I always get the M's mixed up.
Hmm.
Another riser, but like I've seen some have him as high as the third or fourth round, but I think he'll more realistically go fifth or sixth round. Had really good testing over the past few months in workouts in the combine from Maryland. Good tight end. Not thrilled with it from the Patriots perspective, but it looks like Devin Asiasi and Delta Key may not be huge parts of the future. We'll see,
I
but
was gonna ask you that if like what the thought process is of taking. I mean, obviously the sixth round is late in the draft, so you take chances on some positions, some guys, but like you do have two young tight ends that have kind of been pushed to the back burner with Smith and Henry now here. I mean, Smith, you're hoping has a
yeah,
bounce back year. Like, I feel like if you're gonna take a tight end, you wait. I don't know what the
I don't think he
tight end
drafts
position
one
looks
this
like.
year.
No, that's what I was gonna say. You sit on Jonnu Smith for one more year, and if he has another year like he had this year, then go into next year's draft. And I don't know what the tight ends look like for next year's draft. Well, obviously we're jumping way ahead here, but like
No,
maybe
yeah,
that's when you
no
take a
chance.
tight end there. Or
There's one legit stud right now in next year's draft, but I forget his name.
okay. But yeah, like I don't know if I would wait. Maybe not waste a draft pick, but like there's other needs on the team
Yeah,
and
you
taking a
need
tight
to
end.
build the defense. You need to
Hmm.
build the O line a little bit. It's not the year for a tight end or a running back. I see some people talking about them drafting a running back late. why at this point. You might lose James White after this year, but I don't think it's a pressing need enough to the point where
You can
if you
find
need a
running
depth running
backs.
back, you can find a running back, or
Yep.
you can draft one next year in the late rounds.
Either
Like,
one.
yeah, I made a
Like
couple
I said,
PFF
tap into
mock
the
drafts.
undrafted rule, the pool.
Yeah, like I landed in one of these mock drafts, Kyrie Elam and Quay Walker in the first round, so that'd be very cool with. This one, most recently this morning, I did for fun. Andrew Booth Jr. at 21, Christian Watson at 54, which I think he's a first rounder at this point, probably for the Chiefs. One of those picks, maybe. Um, I don't know if he'll make it to 54. I think he's rising. He had a very good combine. Jojo, not JJ or JG Domon, linebacker from Nebraska. Gets a B plus grade here in the PFF for anyone curious. Justin Schaffer or Schaefer, don't know how it's pronounced, but he's an offensive lineman on Georgia as a guard. He has to be somewhat good if he's ranked around the fourth round grade. Give it a C minus though. I don't know a lot about Schaffer, but I think they need to add at the guard position in the draft at some point. Bo
I
Melton
think
again,
yeah.
Adam Anderson, and LeBron Ray. Two guys, if they're available in the sixth round, you should take both of them because at that point, you're probably just going for best player available, unless you
Yep.
want Matt Araiza, who's the greatest punter of all time. It looks like.
I don't know if I'd
At
be
this
taking a
point,
punter in the 6th round either.
I would be. It's the right guy.
Yeah.
You have Jake Bailey, but this kid is a god, and Jake Bailey had somewhat of a down season.
Yeah,
So
that's true when you think about it. So maybe
Matt
not the worst thing.
Araiza, I think he's from San Diego State. He's going to be an absolute menace.
That would be such
So
a Bill move too to take a punter late.
100%. That's what I was just going to say. Be such a Bill move.
Trying to think of Henry because we mentioned the back-to-back tackles is maybe something you don't do. Isaiah Wynn is up at the end of this year. Trent Brown's only here for what, 2 years?
Isaiah Wynn
So
should be a
maybe.
right tackle or a left guard or a
Oh, I'm
right
just
guard.
saying if you want to get rid of Isaiah Wynn at the
I
end
know
of
I'm
the
just
year,
adding to it.
yeah,
I
sure.
hope they
But
do because I just
that's what I mean. That's what I could see them doing is if
gives me
they
the heebie-jeebies.
were to take 2 tackles, then you could say, okay, well Isaiah Wynn's probably gone then, and then you have
Yeah,
someone to replace.
They do need some additional tackle depth outside of
Trent Brown.
Haran.
That too. They
Trent
don't have a ton
Brown's
of that.
in the mix. Michael Wenu can play a little bit of tackle, but primarily a guard. So yeah, maybe that's the plan. I still, like I said, I stand by the fact that Wynn should be a guard or a right tackle.
Yep.
Put Brown over there, the big man.
Call it a day.
The funniest quote, he was on Part of My Take this week, and the PFT asked him how he feels about having a leader named McCorkle, and he said, "I didn't even know that."
Didn't know that, right? Yeah.
He talked about the tattoo too. Like
I saw the tattoo. Yeah.
That interview is so funny. Like
Yep.
those guys really have the best interviews. Trent Brown in studio. Probably the biggest guy to ever walk into the Part of My Take studio. The guy is a giant.
He's massive, yeah.
Yeah. But just a mock draft I felt interested in mocking up a little bit, talking about give my input if someone's not a scout, but one of those guys that follows the draft because I'm hopeless. I can't avoid it. And yeah, to cap off that draft, Jake Bailey's good, but Matt Araiza, this kid, I think it's undersold how valuable an amazing punter can be. And this kid looks like he could be one of the best ever. Like he has a leg from the gods. That's it. That's how I look at it. Right. How valuable is that type of player? How valuable is an amazing field goal kicker?
Oh, for the Patriots, it's exponentially valuable.
They took Justin Rohrwasser out of Marshall in the 5th round, and look what he worked out. Pretty bad, but
did not.
It's a different type of guy. Well. So maybe they have buyer beware, but this feels like such a Bill pick at the same point, like we mentioned. Speaking of amazing Bill picks, you know what I did there? Tom Brady.
Your thoughts
he
on
was
this?
In the news again. He was in the news again.
Do you? Yeah, because I mean, there's been people talking of Bruce Arians obviously was announced the other night stepping down as the Bucs head coach, moves into the front office. Defensive coordinator Todd Bowles, who Tom Brady was very high on rather. He is named the replacement head coach. He ends up signing a 5-year deal to be the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They, I think, negated his final 2 years of his defensive coordinator contract. Crazy offseason for the Buccaneers, from Tom Brady retiring to the Bucks never really being involved with any of the big name quarterbacks that have been moved. Brady then comes back. Bruce Arians ends up getting pushed to the front office role. There are a lot of conspiracy theories going around the NFL right now. Do you believe them, Mike Craddy? Do you think Tom Brady had a say in Bruce Arians getting the boot?
I have thoughts. I don't know exactly
I
what
asked for
happened,
them, so
of
okay.
course,
Yep.
but I think Brady has something to do with this. I think this has probably been somewhat in the works for a while.
Yep.
I thought Byron Leftwich was going to step in as HC. I'm not going to lie. Didn't think it was going to be Todd Bowles, but it's a classic situation where they kind of got to see if Todd Bowles was a product of the Jets or if he's, just shit everywhere.
Yeah.
Something they have to figure out. Bruce Arians is still in the mix. He's done a lot for that organization. He gets his criticism, but he's been good with, he's got a good reputation of hiring diverse candidates.
Yeah,
he's done some pretty good things with that organization. You can criticize his attitude as much as you want, but a guy who does have his wins and, of course, most importantly, a Super Bowl win. But yeah, I find it extremely hard to believe that Brady didn't have some involvement in this, whole transaction or transactions. But just another interesting storyline in the all-encompassing offseason of Tom Brady it's become. Because he can do whatever he wants. He controls the league. It seems
he's turned into LeBron James. Like
Oh no!
Not from. I mean,
I hate
not from a D-baggy stance, but like, come on.
I know what you mean, but I hate that you said that.
I'm sorry.
Hate that you said that. It makes so much sense.
It does
in some ways,
but
I
constructed that team pretty much.
I hate that you said that. I hate that you said that. But I get where you're coming from. I'm not gonna just try and
it's as
tear down
head
your
on
walls.
as you can get. No, I know, I got you. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, this just screams like this has all been planned out. Like to me, I mean, Jake Glazer had the quote about Bruce Arians talking about how what was honestly coming. He said, quote, Bruce Arians told me once he knew Tom Brady was coming back, he started thinking he could step away and leave Todd Bowles in great position. Said there was a rule they need to clarify. They got this weekend. So that was just something different. But yeah, I mean, just this had been all planned out. There's obviously people who've talked about, Brady obviously going overseas to whatever that soccer game was. And he was with, he was with the Glazers talking about coming back. That whole fiasco.
Celtics won.
They did. I saw they almost gave that game away. I was trying to catch up on it as we were doing this. So good win there for them.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, I mean, just again, and then I said I saw the other day on Twitter that right after they announced that the move that they were giving Todd Bowles the 5-year contract, that doesn't happen. Without
now we'll see Gronk sign in the next 2 weeks.
Yep,
and
he'll come back.
Normal.
Every free agent they've needed has come back.
Bobby Wagner signs with the Rams.
Yep.
For 5 years.
I know, it was ridiculous.
I'm glad the Patriots didn't do that now, but Matt Judon, please fucking have a normal one. Please be less bored. Stop!
Or
stop
actually get
with the
someone
recruiting.
To come here. Yeah.
That the reverse psychology recruiting. Just stop. Stop.
It's not working. It's actually pushing people away.
Please stop. Oh my god, he's making me develop disdain for him, and I really don't want to be there. I'm really
getting there.
Don't.
I still like the player, but I'm with you.
I'm fully
cut
there.
The crap. I've had enough.
I'm fully there. It's obnoxious. It's obnoxious until you get Odell Beckham here and to satisfy my prophecy. God damn it! I want things to go better. That's just all I have to say.
I've been saying that since day one with this team. When it comes to the off season.
It's I talked to Wera, a friend of the podcast, listens from time to time again, about this on Rocket League. After it happened, Bruce Arians has had a complicated legacy, more good than bad, more bad than good, whatever side you want to lean on. But I thought of this after it happened. I'm like, this makes sense because I don't see him as a guy that would want to walk away from the Bucks. He's built the Bucks culture, or done as much as he can to do so. Won a championship, which is they're obviously very grateful for, and is very new to Tampa Bay in terms of the football population. Hockey, we know what they do, and baseball, they're pretty good. But I think Bruce Arians, no matter what you can say about him, wanted to establish a winning culture in Tampa, and he did that, so he was willing to step away.
Yeah.
And he's still established it because they've kept a lot of their core together. So
I think the big thing too is like it would have looked. I feel like it looks, and shady's the wrong word for it, but it looks obvious that Tom Brady had something to do with this. But I think
a little downgrade from shady.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Looking for a different S word, but I think it would look so much worse, like you said, with how much good Bruce Arians has done from that, from obviously just from the coaching standpoint, like you mentioned, the diverse hirings he's had. Like it would look so much worse on the Buccaneers if they just cut bait with him. Like he hasn't done anything for that organization that's really been like a fireable offense. So like to say that they were moving on from him to obviously have Brady come back and then have Bull, like that would have looked so bad. So like this, having him go to the front office is, like you said, it's not as
it just satisfies
sketchy
everyone.
as it. Exactly, everyone wins. Brady comes back, gets the coach he wants. Gets to keep playing. Arians still has a job.
I will say, add to it, I'm really surprised it wasn't Leftwich. I thought with his head coaching interest, him either a combination of not taking a job or being denied, kind of like segued into him being the next guy if it were to enter a situation like this. But they're both going to have involvement on the sidelines, so it's going to work out for the Bucs. They're going to be a good team again. I'm glad again I didn't drop Tom Brady. I have
dynasty
on my dynasty team. I have Russell Gage already, so maybe him and Brady eat up.
Yeah, would be the worst thing.
But the NFL, as an overarching thought, is better with Tom Brady in it, and that's just a fact.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not up for discussion.
Some people will argue that, but those people.
And if you argue that, you're defying the rules of not up for discussion, which is a federal crime. So, yeah. But if you really want to talk about it, and I'm bored enough, I'll talk to you about it. What a show! Long show, Friday night show.
Yep.
I hope anyone listening has been vibing along with us. I've been keeping the blood flowing.
More baseball to come
Friday.
next week with the start of the season. So if there's any people that were wondering about baseball, we'll have the big baseball show next week with predictions, stuff like that, rosters for the Red Sox.
Roster stuff, maybe some contract stuff.
Maybe Rock Holt will come back. The Braves did release him. Red Sox need a bench piece.
Maybe Rafael Devers will sign a monster extension.
Yeah, that would be nice. Let's not have another Mookie situation on our hands.
There will definitely be more updates on the Red Sox. Until then, Trevor Story did have a sacrifice fly RBI, so guy's kind of the man today. Sox definitely come down to earth a little bit in spring training.
Spring training.
But Trevor Story, stating the obvious here, makes me much more excited to watch the Red Sox this season than I would have been without him, because you need to fill the void without Kyle Schwarber. Now you need to figure out the outfield and stuff. We'll talk about that more next week. We'll have plenty to talk about. We'll have Bruins, Celtics, Patriots, I assume, with the league stuff. Outside of the Patriots, there's still plenty going on. We'll die down, but thank you so much for listening. Episode 88. We're back live this week. Nice to see that after some really annoying technical difficulties last week that didn't allow us to do so, but we're in a Friday night. We'll be dropping it for anyone wondering. Still Saturday morning early for different time zones, so about 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 a.m. Eastern Time, so everybody in different time zones can hopefully get it at an ideal time. Thank you so much for listening. We're just about at 4,000 downloads on our last episode, the most we've ever had. It's absolutely insane how wonderful this change has been for us. Thank you so much to all our new and old listeners. We're seeing international listeners, local listeners. It's amazing. We're so grateful. We just want to let you guys know that it means so much to us, and expanding is what we always want to do.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. You hit the nail on the head with everything there.
Yeah, it's just wonderful. Thank you so much again. It's what we're here for. We're here to inform the people and reach different audiences. But thank you so much for listening. You can follow me on Twitter if you don't, at Mike_Craddy. You can follow Ryan at Ryan_Salvaggio. You can follow the show at Sal and Craddy Pod. You can throw Salvaggio and Craddy into the search bar. you can see my Szechuan sauce review, and it's also on our story if you need a reminder for the show tonight. We'll post some more content. I'll post some more clips from episodes this week. Some clips for sure throughout the week, so check that out. You can find us on all sorts of platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Megaphone, the Full Press Coverage app. We'll have iHeartRadio and Amazon hopefully soon. We're working on getting that done. There were so many listeners for so many different platforms. So shout out to wherever you're listening from. Check us out. Like Full Press Coverage on YouTube. Like the video if you're watching the stream. Subscribe. Follow on the Full Press Coverage Twitch channel. You'll get in the chat there. There's so many places to watch us. There's so much good content on this network. Please check it out. We'll see you next week for episode 89. Almost hitting the 90 bomb. We'll talk to you then. Stay safe, stay healthy, be nice to people, and enjoy life. Go Bruins, go Seas, go everyone. We're vibing on a Friday night. On to next week. Talk to you then. Peace out.